Yeah, it's quite special. Before I get started, I want to make sure people knew we lost one of our good employees just recently. Stacy Marcus worked for security, and they are going to have an event at noon. I guess, Leroy, go ahead and describe that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a celebration of life for Stacy in our office over in DHRD at noon, and we wanted to invite you guys if you guys can make it.
Right. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Can I do roll call before you guys do prayer?
You bet. We certainly can. Just want to make sure other people also knew that Stacy's sister Tracy is in serious condition in Polson, suffering from the same ailment that Tracy passed away from, we believe. So, or I mean, Stacy passed away from. So with that, I'll just get the meeting started. Go ahead with a roll call. Jen?
Mike Dolson, Tom McDonald.
Here.
Jennifer Finley. Here. Jim Molitor. Carol Langford. Danielle Matt. Here. Bing Matt. James Steele Jr.
Una.
Martin Charlo.
I'm here.
Lenise Trahan.
Thanks, Jen. James, would you start us out in a prayer this morning? Thank you, sir.
Sutan, Father, we thank you for this day, and we particularly remember Stacy Marcus and her sister. We ask for healing upon the sister, that she recover quickly. We ask for your spirit to comfort the family and friends and her colleagues here at DHRD and the security office. Give them comfort and peace of mind. We ask for your guidance over them as they remember their colleague and family member. We ask for your guidance over our meeting today. Give us wisdom as we make decisions for our people, and thank you for our beautiful homeland.
Yeah, go ahead, Leroy.
Just got updated that Stacy or Tracy, the family said that she wasn't doing too good last night, and they're trying to get her back to Kalispell. So just wanted to give you guys a quick update that.
Thanks, Leroy. All right, we have, go ahead, Jen, you have something? No, okay. Okay, we have our agenda today, or not agenda, we have our minutes, excuse me, from the other day to look at first. Order of business is the minutes from Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you. I had a couple changes I made. I made a change to, and I emailed them to Abby this morning. When Richard Ork came in, I made a change there, and then made a change on page 5. I took out, I just asked for review of the 18 money policy and took out the rest of that.
Approve the council minutes with corrections.
Second.
Second by James. Any further discussion? Bert? Yeah. Changes to agenda. Go ahead, Jen.
2.
or changes? Motion to approve today's agenda with additions. Motion by Jimmy. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous. Right. We will take our first walk-in.
Sandra?
Can we do?
Good morning. HRD, from 9 to 3 at the Early Powell Pavilion, we are going to have boxes or pallets for all the veterans from and we have James here.
Yeah, so we're trying to help our veterans down that way because we have Sylvia's store where we get a donation from, is it Amazon, I believe it is, or whoever donates this pallets, they're
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Yeah, they donate it for all the veterans and we send several pallets to Elmo Way, also Arlie, and then we have ones here to help our veterans and stuff. And they wanted to do this on a Saturday for the April 5th, I believe it is, from 9 to 3. So that way we can help some of the veterans and that it's free on their end. They just need to provide their, hopefully they'll have their DD 214 or VA card so we can verify because it's kind of hard to, everybody can say they're a veteran, but we just want to try to make sure we're helping veterans more than, then everybody afterwards will be from 1 to 3, I believe it is, to everybody else after we've helped the veterans from 9 to 1. And we'll open it up to the general public from 1 to 3.
Yeah, Carol?
You know what's in the pallets?
It can range from everything from cool items to, like a coat rack to really anything that it's just anything surplus that they had, or sometimes some of the items are missing something, but that's why they're just a surplus and returned items that they have. And
has anybody visited South Dakota lately? I mean, I think I was one of the first ones that happened to go over there. I don't know if it was 20 years ago when they were first given out and they gave out diapers and all that kind of stuff for household things, clothing, shoes, just tons of stuff. But the warehouse is huge. Has anybody visited there in a while?
I don't think so. I don't know if anybody's actually been over there recently.
Oh, okay. Oh, what a cool opportunity. Thank you.
James?
What was the date on that again?
April 5th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Thank you.
I can also email that to you.
Will that be in the Charcusta?
To help find with this.
Looking for some volunteers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Some volunteers.
Yes, there you go. But we just are asked to come in and present this and look at it as giving back to our veterans. What
Well,
little
thank
we
you.
can
Yes.
do.
It's
to help.
super. Wonderful. Yeah, go ahead, Len.
So after April 5th, is there any other location you guys will be doing this?
So the Sylvia store is where they usually do that free store until we run out of the items. And then I don't know if we're gonna be receiving a second donation later this year or not. I don't know how that works. I'm still working. I'm learning all this process here.
Okay.
This is like the
first dry run of this
Yeah.
from Sylvia retiring.
All right. Well, I really want to thank you three for volunteering to do this. It's really important for the veterans. And I think it's going to send them a strong message that, hey, we're trying to look out for our veterans. And so thank you. And Rob, if we can make sure we get something in the Charcusta. Thank you.
And Kootenai Culture usually comes and grabs pallets for the north end. and we try to get pallets up to Hot Springs.
Someone for Hot Springs.
Yep.
Names out.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. Super. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Thank you.
Our next walk-in is Shane Hendrickson and Eric.
Up. Jokes is on you, huh? Not in good taste at all. I'm sorry about that, Eric.
Yeah. Yeah, good morning. So we're just in to do a quick check-in from the agency and in FIP. Nothing with any degree specifics, but just want to give you an overview of what's going on with our two entities, the agency. And from an agency perspective, I did finally track down the termination notice for my office lease. It happened to be in Jordan Thompson's email. He didn't recognize the sender, and it's one of those emails that just never got opened. So we do have the official termination. And GSA has been in contact with me to get a glide path to get out of my office to do the final inspection. But we postponed that because we both are hearing that the higher levels are working on clawing those leases back. So it's one of those things, you believe it when you see it, but that's the word on the street, is the BIA is asking for reconsideration of those occupied buildings, of which the regional office, the 911 building in Portland, is one of those. So they're working, as I understand it, at the DC level, trying to do something to reestablish those leases. So that was my quick snippet from a lease perspective. And I'll let Eric kind of jump into the FIP updates. So that maybe I'll lay the groundwork that FIP is, not only FIP, but all federal workers have been going through, is the hiring freeze coming into the new year, the deferred resignation program, which is called DRP, the probationary fires. There's another executive order out there that says when the hiring freeze does lift, we can only hire one person for every 4 that we let go. And then there is a freeze on the credit cards federally wide. So it's, I shouldn't say there's a freeze. I would get in trouble for that. There's a limit. There's a $1 limit. And there's a difference, right? A freeze and a $1 limit is a difference. So we have a $1 limit on our travel card and our purchase cards. And then, as you're aware, we did have a continuing resolution signed. Last Friday, we averted a federal shutdown or a furlough. But that came, as by my math, about a 17% hit to non-defense agencies. And how that's going to be distributed among those agencies, time will tell. We should know in the next couple weeks if we absorb a full 17% hit in Indian Affairs and how that gets distributed down to the regions and the agencies. It's all up in the air. So then that sets up the new budget in September. October 1 will be hopefully a new budget. But writing on the wall that they're talking 50% cuts with the new budget, because that's somewhat where they were headed with this current budget. So those will come with RIFs and whatnot. Currently the Department of Interior has they're open for VERA and VSIP, which is the voluntary early retirement authorization and the voluntary incentive program, to buyout. So they'll give you money to leave. And I think you got a week to make that decision on whether you go. And if you make that decision, you got to be gone by May, end of May, I think. The one exception is Indian Affairs. that is not applicable to Indian Affairs employees, or can't take the early out or the buyout, until the consultation is done with all tribes. So that could come online later, in maybe midsummer after they've done all the consultation with tribes. They may offer that to Indian Affairs. It's not clear how that'll play out. So anyway, that can lead into Eric's, how he's yo-yoed through the process of all of those things.
I guess the one part we'll talk about is the DRP. We understand there was 16 of us that took the DRP, and I guess in one way, and I did talk to some of the individuals to take it, and I guess it was just had that feeling more was going to happen. So we had one employee didn't take it, was on probation, was terminated because of that situation. So the ones that did take it were on probation, got protected. So, and then we assumed that we were done March 7th as far as the DRP. The 2 days before, I'd say, well, less than 2 days before the 7th, we were told that we were exempt. So a lot of people already, for example, I already moved out. I already moved all my stuff over the mountains and settled in, and then next thing I know, exempt from the whole situation. So it created a lot of animosity among the workers because they were taking a DRP with a VERA, which is early retirement. So next thing we were told that you are exempt till April 30th. Well, the situation that affects the morale with the employees because you're playing with their lives, you're playing with their heads as far as, so what's that mean? April 30th, you guys are going to extend it to May, June? What are you going to do? So the document that we signed was a document between us and the federal government, which is a legal document. And being told exempt was a word of mouth. There's no email, there's no letter, no nothing. So I went and seen an attorney about the document. And with that document, I could have walked out that day and said, you know what, you owe me. You can't legally hold me. But didn't do that. And so I gave pretty much the regional director heads up on what was done. And he didn't realize that because everybody was reacting instead of thinking about what we were doing with this process. But in return, after we talked to the wife and thought about it, I pulled mine just earlier this week. I pulled out of the DRP, I pulled out of the retirement, so I'm here permanent. So I pulled out of all that. Gave the districts heads up on it that not to worry because they were scared that they were going to have to use tax dollars to pay us because it was coming out of the budgets. Well, if that was the case, they wouldn't be able to hire other people because they're busy paying the employees that took the resignation. So as we speak right now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us pulled out of it. So I've talked my coworkers into staying. We're pulling out of the DRP. So in there we have 6 about ready to retire. So but we're all sticking around for the season. We're overcoming the situation with the purchase card. We know that VIP is in there for a purchase card just for ourselves. We had 4 purchase cards. They were cut. We're down to 1. So we only get 1 for the agency. it's gonna have its limits. I mean, with our credit card, we could spend $50,000 easy in a week because of what we need and what has to be done. So anyway, so they're getting us that. The other problem is because of the freeze. So the hiring freeze is hurting us in a lot of ways because we figure we're losing, what do we have, about 16 bodies, that position we got to fill. But the other thing, I know I talked to Mike about it, is the emergency program. I do have 300,000 sitting in OSG right now to transfer to the tribes. But because we waited so long that now we got to go through the political hiccups. So I got to justify anything over $50,000. I have to justify that in writing to the regional office so they can get approval. So I'll go ahead and I just got the application yesterday. So I'll complete that either today or tomorrow to get that forward. Because I think that program will help us because we don't have to go through the bureaucracy of trying to hire. We don't have to do the background checks. We don't have to do a lot of things. And I got individuals calling me ready to go to work for us. So that's another area that I'm looking heavily at. Hopefully that will be the tool we need to get FIP back on its feet to go forward. Also, the other problem we're having is we have no card to charge bulk fuel for our diesel for the equipment. So what we're doing is we have an account at Cenex. I just told the employees to run it up. We'll deal with it later. There's other things like yesterday we had a broken hose on one of the heavy equipment track hose, and I just told them we'll charge it. We set up an arrangement with Caterpillar to charge that to get that fixed. So we're finding ways to get up and get around things. We just went up to plastic a week ago. One of the individuals had to take his own snowmobile to go up to the top to make adjustments on a runoff. And then Shane was able to get us a couple more snowmobiles last weekend with Forest Service, and they went up last weekend and did some more adjustments and had to do some work up there. So anyway, and we did request a rental equipment, and we got that approved from purchasing. So we got a snowblower as we speak is going up the mountainside and clearing that road up so we can get up there and actually do some work. So that we figured in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, we should be to the top. So with that, so we could start catching water and be able to start rerouting that. So, which is, we're trying to overcome the morale, trying to be more positive about this year, and trying to, and I know I have to give districts credits for reaching out to the senators to help us to address some of these issues. So Zinke and Daines and them are involved in this whole situation at the DC level. We pushed this level all the way up to the secretary, which Doug Burgum's the new secretary, and I know Doug when he was governor of North Dakota. I used to work with him. So anyway, they know about our situation here, and they're trying to address it with everything. And so, and then they met the senators, and Brian Mercer and RD met with the Hot Springs district last week, and we got good compliments from the district for our job, what we're doing with what we have. We're catching all the water possible up in Hot Springs area. So we're trying to stay on top of everything. So hopefully that as time comes, we will find out more. I mean, we got 12 positions and 5 temporaries I have packaged ready when the USA job opens the freeze, I can submit those. But right now they're trying to exempt us like fire and law enforcement, where we can open up USA jobs to go ahead and put those application package out on the site for opportunities for people to come to work. And so, and I know that, there's, every day changes. We never know what's happening. You guys know that. It's by the hour, by the minute. We never know what the government's going to do. But we're being productive, working around things, and trying to stay focused. So, and so, any questions?
Thank you for not leaving. Thank you for being for that action and I would just say if you're not going to go the early retire, if you could be here for a while, I know you were interested in that Allard House.
Yeah.
And I would hope that council took action to show disinterest in that. But I'd hope to keep it in trust. With a member from another tribe or one of ours, it gives us that opportunity to keep it in trust in the future. So if you're interested in that house, I believe that's still an opportunity, probably to acquire it even in trust. Because I don't know why we would stop that because we allowed for the movement to go into fee.
Yeah.
So I think that's an opportunity for you. If you're looking for housing, if you're temporary thing, I know Mark talked about the opportunity to maybe move into or a couple of our RV spots in the Evero area. Personally, I have one vacant house that I could talk to the other owners that, numerous people could live in, at least temporary for a while. I certainly would venture to offer them that because it's a vacant house in Ronan right now.
Okay, I appreciate it, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, just it just blows my mind how much RV space what they're charging a month around here, and it's almost like you could rent a house or apartment for the amount what you're asking, So appreciate it. I know I have one worker, the South Watermaster, so I told him I was coming in, and he's got to be out of his place this weekend, so it'd be nice to relocate him down in the south area.
Wait, Carol?
Yeah, the farmers and ranchers, are they rising up a little bit? I mean, are they fearful of not receiving any water or?
No, what I've been doing is I've been going to the district meetings and reassuring them that we're doing the best we can, but they all, at the same time, they are been keeping me in contact. Even when I was on vacation, I was getting calls from them letting me know that they're reaching out to the senators because I can't as a federal employee, but they can. So I think the timing's been perfect. So they're addressing their concerns, and I told them, you guys can flood the phones. I can't. So I think there's been plenty of them calling their representatives in each location. So they're getting responses, and they're calling me back and letting me know what's happening and what direction they're going with this. So
Yeah, I know you can't do anything, and I think we need to use this as much as we can to our benefit. I mean, because I think their voices are probably a little stronger than employees right now. So I think whatever we need to do, but yeah, if there's something we can do as a tribe, let us know. I mean, I think we're probably doing everything we can, but
yeah.
anyway, I just really feel for the whole situation. It's just really sad. It's awful.
Yeah, and I think that, and I know that the tribes are pulling together at the national level, and letting I think the secretarial Doug Burgum letting them know that they have a voice in this, and they want to meet face to face, government to government relations, on opportunities. What's going on with BIA, and I'm glad for that they're stepping in and putting their foot down with this whole scenario, what's going on. Because I think that as sovereign nations, we should have that opportunity to voice our opinion, our concerns about what's happening on trust land, and I just feel that, I think that has to be understanding, and I know Doug has done really well with the North Dakota tribes, and he's proactive, and then he's just hired Scott Davis as I think he's his assistant secretary, but Scott was his Indian Affairs director for 14 years through a couple of different governors in North Dakota. So I know Scott really well. He's from Standing Rock. and he's good friends. My sister's chairwoman at Standing Rock, and they're good friends and stuff. So, so that's good to know that those people are in place, that we have a chance to voice our opinion and our concerns and needs. Just let you know that this is right at the secretary level. So and I think it might be even at the congressional level as far as addressing the concerns of the Flathead Valley. So.
Good, Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Shane. Yeah, thank you for sticking around. I was really worried, especially after seeing you at some of the meetings for the rate change and everything. So, yeah, really appreciate you sticking around, and definitely, like if you max out your credit limit at X or at Cenex, we have a gas station right here that we could probably hook you up with and figure out something like that too.
Well,
go ahead. Thank you.
Well, the other thought was because we're getting limited on our credit cards, right? One of the things we were talking about is putting contracts out. So if your gas station here is a bulk with fuel and diesel, what I was thinking about is trying to put contracts out in place where they're 3-year with 2-year option. So what happens, it keeps us from have to keep writing purchase request orders and stuff, that with the contract we would be locked in and we wouldn't have to deal with a lot of those issues, and then we just continue. And then after the 3rd year, we go into the 4th year, we decide we want that 4th or 5th year option on that contract. So I think that's I think we have to think out of the box. I guess the old way was contracts, and they got credit cards. Now it's we kind of slid backwards to the other concept, but there's always ways around things to do things. So just got to think out of the box.
Yeah, definitely, Eric. We don't do bulk, but yeah, go ahead.
And we were in Washington 2 weeks ago and lobbying for you guys as well. So
yeah, I appreciate it.
I think we hit all the delegation, and yeah, so definitely we've been trying to do everything we could to support, and we'll continue to do that as well.
Go ahead, James.
I'm good, thank you.
Appreciate everything. I'll let my other employee know that we will have a couple spots up there, Grey Wolf, and then I'll get with you later, Tom, and see what you hear on the house.
I'll if it's something you're interested in, it's for sale, but it's vacant, and so there could be temporary housing there if the other owners, family members are up for that. I think you guys would be good tenants, or at least it could be a few people. It's a big house.
Appreciate it all, you guys. You guys have a nice week and enjoy your weekend. All right, thanks.
Yes,
Thanks.
thanks for your time and for the support for both the agency and FIP. Greatly appreciated. I guess the last announcement I'll throw out there on FIP's behalf is they do have their spring irrigator meeting. That's next week, I think.
March 27th.
The 27th at 2.
MVP from 2 to 5.
2 to 5 at MVP. And as always, council's welcome. It's an all irrigator meeting. They do that in the spring, and then they do it again in the fall. And much of that will be just updates to align the chaos, if you will, and inform the irrigators on operations of this year. That looks like we're going to have operations because of really these guys' personal sacrifice to come back and try to hold the FIP organization together. Again, my appreciation for FIP in that regard too, and specifically to Eric and those staff members that are coming back. They're on the ropes, and they pulled back in the ring, and I think there's a good chance we could almost have a normal irrigation season. But yeah, so thanks to Eric and his crew, and again, thanks to council for the time this morning.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
There was, the irrigators were developing a change in the law to be able to manage the water to their land. Did they ever, or were they successful in that part of it, or do you know? You know what I'm talking about, I hope.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So we know that in 1976 and 1986 that the irrigators had the opportunity to use the emergency program to allow them to help irrigate lands when we had a shortage or concern of this going on. And I did reach out to them, and because we knew we were going to be shorthanded, you know, and so we needed to think out of the box. So I got them to start thinking of how the districts could participate with us. And so I was looking at, is there a way we can develop a agreement or a working agreement that would be needed in times of this situation, emergency situation, you know? So I had them looking into it, checked is how that process worked for them in the past, you know? And my concern is we never know when this is going to come up, a situation. So I'm trying to think out, how do we put something in place that protects FIP in the district to keep operating? Because it makes it difficult when you don't have a mechanism in hand to allow you to do your job, what needs to be done. So we were trying to figure out ways to compromise on that. And I guess, and one of the deals I know we brought up to was discussed even 638 parts of the district or FIP, like the ditch riding and like the maintenance part of it. And we talked about that because we thought that with that tool, then we don't have to go through all the headaches of hiring and trying to put people in place. And what the situation, how we could look at that is we allow the tribe 638, the ditch riding and the maintenance side of it. We leave the front office with the BIA and the branch managers just keep the operations going. And then what happens, we get away from the hiring process. But at the same time, too, the tribes, if they 638 those portions, could use those to their advantage as far as CSKT. When there's things that need to be fixed or worked on, they can actually go through that process because they would have control on the equipment and the manpower. So there's different tools and mechanisms that this could work out. And so it was just an open discussion and thought of how that can work. I know that understanding that you guys have the authority to do it, I sat on the meeting and got the clarification on that. So it's just a thought in mind that could work, you know, so it's just another tool. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Did you guys retain any of the office staff? Did any of them leave?
No, in fact, I just did one yesterday. She's would have been fired because she was a probationary, but I put her on resignation. But she had 3 days to respond. But what I did was I requested her to be exempt like everybody else, and so I put that forward. One of the things we did have 2 employees who were terminated, but I was able to get them exempt from the termination, so they were able to go back to work 2 days later. So if we can do the DRP, you should be able to do the exemptions for everybody else that's going on. So far it's been good. It's been working out for us.
So I think 2 of the 5 front office staff are probably going to remain for the season anyway. We did get critical support from central office in the terms of our billing. Bills went out for FIP last week and were just being received this week. So that was a heavy lift that the central office came in and did for FIP because there was no one there to do it.
I mean, and so they put a team together and we worked with Janine, and I know she was willing to help us get through that, so we were able to address all those bills. So we got them out on time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
Eric, especially.
Have a
Jane,
nice
as
day,
always.
guys.
Thank you.
Really quick, Patty, one more with this letter on your screen.
Council, I'm here to see if CSKT would like to support a proposal from Red Shield 8 Nations. So it's a proposal that would be going in for Senator Tim Sheehy's community congressionally directed spending. That process closes tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Red Shield 8 Nations would like to submit a proposal for those funds. Part of the process for the proposal is must be 5 letters of support. Right now, Red Shield 8 Nations has letters of support from Rocky Boy, Little Shell Tribe. Fort Peck said they're going to get theirs in today. McCooey's going to submit a letter of support, and the Montana Healthcare Foundation. And just seeing if CSKT would sign a letter of support for funding for the Regional Treatment Center.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we support Red Shield 8 applying for funding.
Are we requesting any other special funding from Sheehy and his little ability?
Are you asking from CSKT
Yes.
specifically? I am not aware.
I think we were aware of this deadline or request, and I thought some staff was looking into it, but they haven't heard anything back. So I guess absent any other,
And just so that you know, part of the process also is that every tribe and or organizations could submit up to 5 separate proposals for different projects with Sheehy.
do we even generate one?
I'm not aware.
Greg, do you know of any? Go ahead, Danielle.
I think Jordan, isn't this the one that Jordan had the 2 going out on that legal updated us? They were applying for that same fund? Okay. Yeah, I support as long as it's not going to interfere with the other monies coming into us directly.
Well, I haven't seen any other requests, so I guess I don't know how it could. Go ahead, Jen.
Also, when I received this letter this morning, I asked her to send it to legal. So hopefully I'll get a hold of Jordan and Dan and ask them to kind of give an update later, but I just wanted to get her on here just in case it does get approved so she can meet her deadline.
Sure.
But I did send it up, or had her send it up this morning.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Show of hands. Here, put their little heads up, like they do in these other meetings. You're up.
Vice Chairman, members of council. So today I'm accompanying John Nice from the Facilities and Maintenance Group for council approval on 4 journal entries. They're for the Facilities and Maintenance Group. They are specifically designed to move some of the expenses that were borne inside the Facilities and Maintenance budget over to the ARPA plan where they were appropriately designed and designated to go. The POs, the purchase orders, were generated to put the expense inside of their general fund rather than putting them directly into the ARPA fund itself. So parenthetically, let me see if I can make this large. Are you seeing my screen? Here, the breakdown on page 3 talks about the task order number 2, number 8, number 10, for example, and talks about the portion of that $4 million contract. 3.8 million of that was HVAC, which is absolutely ARPA. It was charged, however, into their general portfolio. And the journal entries, as I scroll down, funds, if you look here at 3753, that's the program for ARPA, and 6300 is the program for maintenance. And so I've reviewed these journal entries, and they move the funds, the expenses, out of maintenance's budget and appropriately into the ARPA fund itself. Total being moved is $4,684,000.
Go ahead, Len.
So we're moving $4 million back into the ARPA. Is that what's going on here?
More specific,
Help me understand this, why we're doing this.
the task orders and the task orders lined out here, for example, task order 24, task order 8. Can you see them on the screen there? Those particular task orders were carried out by SKMM at a variety of different locations to accomplish a variety of different things. Their intended cost of accomplishing those accomplishments, the intent was to charge them to ARPA where they belonged. They did the work. They were paid through the tribes using the F&M budget, and they should have used 3753, which was the ARPA program number. We're simply moving the expense that's already been paid away from the budget that facilities and maintenance uses to cover these things into the ARPA budget where they were intended to be accomplished. And it frees up that money back inside of facilities and maintenance for them to continue doing tribal related non-ARPA activities. This is a bookkeeping entry that shifts the expense from the facilities and maintenance budget to the ARPA budget where it belongs.
Carol?
Yeah, is there a resolution we're approving or is it just a motion?
This is just a motion to approve. This is a journal entry that
I understand it.
is old. It's a couple of months old and it just needs to be caught up.
Exactly.
And we're here to be open about why it's just now being accomplished and to discuss.
And you said M&M, right? Where it initially came out of, or was it something else?
SKMM did the work.
Oh, SKMM. But it wasn't maintenance and what is it?
O&M?
O&M.
It's not O&M.
Okay.
It's
All right, so I'll make a motion that we go ahead and correct the expenditure and put it in the right area. Because this has a date, it's date stamped, we gotta use it or we lose it, right?
That's correct.
Well, to approve the journal entry by Danielle. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands.
You guys want your quick break before the meeting starts?
Yeah, let's have a quick break.
Yeah. Meeting starts at 10.
Session after our break, and our next item is the Department of Environmental Quality. And as I see, well, Misty's here, but she's not part of it. Please come on up, James, or whoever's here.
Oh, thank you. Treats, donuts.
They heard that
Wait,
chocolate chip
James?
cookies were my favorite?
Yes.
Well, those of you that want to present, come on up to the table, please, come on up. James comes back to the room, we'll do introductions. How about that? And welcome. Thank you for coming to discuss this important matter with us. We really appreciate it. We take very seriously our landscape, our traditional lands, our cultural resources, the importance of our fish and wildlife resources, water quality, all those things considered, cumulative effects on our landscape. We really take it very seriously. So we appreciate the consultation of you coming here. And with that, please introduce yourselves. Thank you.
Excuse me, I apologize ahead of time. I've got a frog in my throat. I'm James Fair. I'm the Deputy Director for DEQ. Director Nowakowski sends her regards. Wasn't able to make it up today, buried in legislative session. We're on the second half of session, so we're working through some good things, but we're all happy to be here. I'll let my staff introduce themselves as well.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming us here. My name is Rebecca Harbage. I'm the Public Policy Director at the Department of Environmental Quality. I also have with us Betsy Adams, who's our tribal liaison. She's a great point of contact if you ever have questions for anything related to DEQ.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Tatiana Davila. I'm the Water Protection Bureau Chief at DEQ. Our programs encompass the MPDS permitting and groundwater permitting that we're talking about today.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Ulvin. I'm the Water Quality Planning Bureau Chief at DEQ. The Water Quality Planning Bureau contains our standards, total maximum daily load, and impaired waters assessment programs.
Good morning, everybody. Again, thank you for having us here. My name is Sam King. I'm the Chief Legal Counsel for DEQ.
Any other folks besides Misty with the state? Okay. You know, we have like a proposed agenda, and we really wanted to kind of, as I mentioned, the importance of our area and our tribal landscape. So I would really like to be able to introduce our staff from our Salish Crespe cultural staff, and they could give a review of the importance of the area and our resources. So with that, I would say Sadie or here, Kevin.
I have the honor and privilege of serving as the director for the.
Sadie, you'll have to move the mic closer here.
Sorry, I'm soft-spoken anyways. As I said, my name is Sadie Pion-Stops. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the director for the Salish Kalispel Culture Committee. And I want to thank you all for being here this morning. Our department is within the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. Our mission and vision is to preserve, protect, and perpetuate our culture, language, and history. Our department was established by the CSKT Tribal Council 50 years ago. And throughout that time, we worked very closely within that 50-year span with a group of culturally knowledgeable elders who guide and direct all of the work that we do. And they're referred to as the Salish Kalispel Elders Cultural Advisory Council. The Kasanka Culture Committee as well has an Elders Advisory Council that they get guidance and advice to as well. Our elders have always told us and reminded us that our landscape, we've inherited it, and we have that duty and obligation to care for it, just as they did for us. They gave us a good home. We have that responsibility as a whole, as a people, to take care of our cultural landscape. Not only our department, but within our entire tribal organization and as people in general. This area that we're discussing today, where the proposed septic plant near Ashley Creek is an area that holds a significance for our tribes in general. And I speak on behalf of the Salish and Kalispel Culture Committee. The Upper Kalispel, the Kalispel Band of people use that area quite a bit. That area in particular is called Longnose Sucker Creek. And that's a fish delicacy there in that area that our people would get the food source from. And just as I said before, we have that duty, that responsibility to ensure our food source, our lands, our air, our water is cared for. And our food and our foods, our fish, our animals, our plants, our sustenance for our people. So I just can't stress enough how much these areas are important to us, and we need to make sure that we care for them in a way that's in the right way for our people, but also for the future, our future generations. These areas were left in and in good shape from our ancestors, our families, and those who have gone on before us. And we, again, have that responsibility to ensure that that continues for our future. Just want to close by saying, and I'm going to pull this right out of our Cultural Waterways Ordinance, which was enacted by our Tribal Council in 2022 at the urging of our elders to confer protection on certain designated bodies of water. The ordinance begins with a set of findings, and the first foundational finding in this ordinance is this: water is sacred. It is the current that runs through all life and through the cultures of the Salish, Kalispel, and Kasanka people. Our people carry a spiritual obligation to protect our clean, abundant waters. Lemlech Pesia, thank you for your time today, and I hope that at least a little bit of that contributes to the discussions here today. I've also asked our department head for the Preservation Department to come up and also share a few words about the work that they do and the importance of this area.
I am Sanka Smuknik, and the responsibility that we carry with the Preservation Office is to carry out Section 106 reviews and also work it within the realm of cultural resource protection. This particular, I think I'll go right down specifically into this zone for where this project is, where the project area is listed on the map. Any of the original waterways, a long time ago, there were a lot of floodplains and meandering streams there. Any of these zones or areas do carry quite a deposit of cultural resources of many different types. And I also know that we have worked 3 square miles away from that work zone in an effort to repatriate human remains right out of a gentleman's yard there. He was putting a pool there right in his backyard. And I guess why I want to say that is just regardless of progress and how developed an area can be, like Kalispel, these types of resources still do remain in and among waterways. With that, I will also just say that there are a number of zones that have major cultural deposits, and usually those appear where there are occupation sites. Now that place from on the project map, from that place all the way to the shoreline to where there's that new park there. I can't remember the name, but there's a state park there. The old there's a Superfund site where there's a lot of cleanup of creosote on the bank there. There That was a major um, site that you can live there all year. It wasn't one where you had to migrate out of because of weather or anything like that. Um, so I just wanted to just stress the importance of care and also integrity that our tribe tries to maintain with our own cultural and identity through these types of cultural resources that are still tangible. Um, and again, with that burial was really old. And it, it I believe it was about 3,000 years old from what the coroner was able to tell from the red ochre on the bones there, but also the cultural resource, the way that we do field identification with the archaeology that was there too, because there was a number of artifacts that were buried with that person. So I just wanted to bring that forward. I appreciate, the few minutes I was able to be here, and I'll hand that off.
Sure if there's any other cultural aspects you want to talk about, the importance of bull trout, cutthroat trout, the native fishery. Already talked about the long-nosed sucker, but one of the things that a lot of folks don't really understand about our relationship with the fishery is that in times in the past when buffalo supplies were short for us or other big game animals were short, one thing we could always rely upon was the local fisheries to keep us from starvation. And bull trout was one of those key fish species. They were easily caught. The resident fish that lived in different streams in the area were really important for us. And so there's always been, when we take, we give something back. And we owe our existence to our native fisheries. So anytime there's an impact to our native fisheries, we look at it very seriously because that is not the promise that we kept. If we violate that, we're not giving back. We're not, in that balance, that check sheet, we're not protecting them as we should because they protected us. And so when we look at the Flathead Lake system and Flathead drainage, bull trout are a key fishery for us. It's one of the last places that resident bull trout exist in North America. And in fact, the Flathead Lake population and its reduction in size caused bull trout to be listed as a threatened endangered species. So consequently, as we manage the Flathead drainage with all of our partners, sister agencies, even state lands, U.S. Forest Service, National Park Service, our resources, local governments, we look at all the cumulative effects that might impact that fishery. And the cutthroat fishery is just as important. They actually should be a listed species also, but they're not. They're a listed of species of dramatic concern. And so the same thing goes into play for those. So we look at all the aspects that might be limiting factors for that fishery. And for bull trout, they're kind of the canary in the environment. They're super sensitive. They need clean, cold, clear, connected water. And when that gets compromised at any point in their life cycle or their movement as they move from the lake, they move up into these tributaries, they look up and they spawn, they come back. They're not like a one-timer like ocean-going salmon. These fish are long-lived and they do this for tens of years, up to 25 years. And so we have long-lived fisheries and so these streams are very important. Anytime we have a point where there's a reduction in the water quality, it can be a limiting factor that causes a change in that life cycle of that fishery. That's an important thing for us. And we want to prevent that from happening. We want to keep these fish from blinking out. So it's a responsibility for all of us as we look forward to what can we do? It's the cumulative impacts. So with the Forest Service, we're looking at culverts, we're looking at timber sales, what's the water quality impacts? If it's the Columbia Falls aluminum plant and the cleanup there, is that little bit of arsenic or whatever might be coming out in the water column that lends into the Flathead River, that's a concern for us. If you look at a system like this, it's basically a sewage discharge system. And when you look at the Flathead Valley, it's one huge alluvial fan. Of where the rivers used to go and how it's all moving. You're familiar with intermittent streams, right? A stream can go underground and come right back up. Well, that's the Flathead Valley. One thing I didn't really understand about it, how much water is moving, like surface water, just under the ground. I didn't quite understand it until Dr. Jack Stanford revealed his study about stonefly larvae. You're talking about bugs this big that are moving into the old river channels, moving in that water column down to 90 feet down under the surface of where these locations are. Because that's how much the water moves. It's just like a river. So anytime you put anything in there, they're coming right back up to the surface and with their life cycle. They're coming back and emerging as stoneflies, but they're going that deep because the water moves that much there. So every bit of water, when you're talking about an injection system, that's going directly into, you might as well be dumping it right into the river. And that's why, this is really a Clean Water Act situation, because that's what we're looking at. This is so much of a high water table and so much water moving there, it's incredible. But I didn't understand that until that proof of that insect came forward. Well, that can't be, because I'd always see, I see the streams dried up and then it surfaces again. That's pretty cool. But to understand the depth of the Flathead Valley and the water issues there is incredible. The other thing that over my lifetime, as I paid attention to Ashley Creek, and for some lifetime resident here, is that horrid thing to watch Ashley Creek go from what it was when in the 60s to what it is today. It is shameful to see what it is today, how it's been impacted and how it's not fulfilling any requirement that I know or any standard. And to further, think that we're going to put more stress on this system, it should be going the other way, not this way. So it's a challenge. Your job is challenging, as is all of ours when we think about sewage discharge, how we deal with our own existence. But we have to do everything. We have to do the best job we can. We really have to really think out of the box. We have to be cumulative in our decision-making process and think of all factors. And each site is so unique. We may not be here if it wasn't so unique. If we weren't at the alluvial flat of Flathead Lake, we weren't right where we're at, so close to surface waters, and to think that any underwater movement there is really like surface water. We wouldn't be here today talking about this, but we're talking about concentrated pollutants coming out basically in Ashley Creek or directly into the Flathead River, or even moving underground directly into Flathead Lake. I don't know. It's quite interesting. The aquifer. I spent some time as a hydrologist for the tribes and as a fisheries staff person. So it's interesting to look at that system. One thing I'll say about, when Sadie and Kevin talked is that whole valley, all along that river, and the various river streams that used to be, channels that used to be there, like Kevin's talking about, we had large encampments of our people, all the way up through into the 60s that I recall, into the 70s, where they were capturing bull trout, when the bull trout would run and fish for bull trout, all over in that area. So it's really incredible the amount of fisheries that can be produced there, which should be produced and should be available to all of us as Western Montana residents. And so let's try to make this better, not worse. And so I'll leave it at that right now and ask if there was anything Tony or I see Evan there or Chauncey want to mention at this time, or wait. Okay. Thank you. Anyway, let's hear your story.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. So DEQ shares obviously that sacred responsibility for protecting our environment in Montana. And if you look at this process and the timeline here, we received an application for this project about 18 months ago, August of 2023. We worked through it. We got their complete application, determined it was complete in May of 2024. We had an extended public notice. Our normal public notice is 30 days. We did extend that over 60 days for the public. We had a lot of interest on both sides. And then we had a public hearing here at the end of February. So took a lot of comments, public comment period is closed. We're here to talk to you, and really honored to be here to talk to the council and consult with you. We received your letter. The points that you just brought up are things that we definitely care about. And so where we are in the process, that'd be the point that I would like to make is after the public hearing, we have 60 days to make a determination on whether we're going to permit, whether we're going to require more follow-up. And so that's about the end of April for us to make a decision. So we're in the process right now of here to listen, here to take in information from the council, as well as when we're back home in Helena, we've got staff who are reviewing the hundreds of public comments. And if there's any substantive public comment, then we respond to those comments. And so that's where we're working through. We're at the start of that part of the process, but a lot of work to do. But this is a very valuable piece of the process for DEQ. We take this seriously. Anybody else have anything to add on that?
Echo James's sentiment. Just like he mentioned, we're here to listen. We're still in our fact-finding phase. We haven't made any final determinations. We're just, grateful for the opportunity to listen to your concerns. Certainly, the history of this area, like you do, and so that's really valuable input. And we're, gonna pressure check that. Obviously, again, we haven't made any final decisions, but we're gonna just use this information and let that guide us as we go forward. So, thank you.
James?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Kisukukit has squexed. Just a quick reflection on history with the state of Montana. I won't go way back, but this arrangement here, 40, 50 years ago would not exist. And prior, the state of Montana didn't give two big pens what the tribes thought. And, the legislature, they are currently doing their thing, but they didn't care what they said about Indians. Look through the public record and you can just see it. Now they're complaining about certain legislators saying certain things. They sure didn't care back in those days. And, the relationship with the state of Montana over the years, for us as a tribe and people to get our treaty rights recognized, we had to take the state of Montana to court on about everything. Hunting rights, water rights, fishing, jurisdictional rights. And so, you being here at the table to hear our concerns, to get you to the table, your predecessors, they don't want to come to the table. Why do we need to listen to those Indians anyway? That was the blunt facts of it. A few years ago, I was part of the college foundation, and we went up and met up with the FBC foundation, and I said something that I didn't think was going to be controversial. I said, you realize the name of Kalispell is the name of one of our tribes. One of the folks there was like, what? It's the name of one of our tribes. Flathead County is named after generally our tribes. I said, a lot of the names in Montana are tribal names. And at that time, this English only was going on. I'm like, what? The name Montana is not an English word. Are you serious? So I appreciate you being here. And I think, one of my concerns when we talked about this internally the other day was, whatever system we come up with or you approve, I'm concerned about the monitoring. What does that look like? And I looked in the news and saw in Milwaukee, their treatment system, somebody pushed the wrong button and approximately 10,000 gallons went into their local creek there. So, I'm concerned about things like that. What is that monitoring going to look like? And, but I do appreciate you all being here to hear what we have to say, hear what our staff has to say, our cultural folks and our preservation folks. So, much thank you.
Appreciate you coming in today. Once in a while I get a chance to testify in front of the Senate, Indian Affairs, or Congress, and always in my testimony, one of the sayings is, Flathead Lake is the largest lake west of the Great Lakes, freshwater lakes. That's said every time. And how do you turn around and say, well, but there's sewage going in there? I really appreciate the options that have been put together by staff and council, and I think whatever we do, I feel like we can definitely figure something out. I think you guys are just as serious as we are about this, because this is not only our homeland, but it's an area that we all really appreciate, and not only the beauty, but the cleanliness of it. And so whatever we do, I know we can find a solution, and definitely our staff will stay on top of it and make sure that whatever we do is going to be best for our area. So really appreciate you guys coming in today, and never forget that it is the biggest lake on this side of the Great Lakes. Thank you.
Such a long time ago. But one of the things as we, fought to protect our resources and the rights and responsibilities that has been put on our shoulders, I didn't quite realize when the dam was built at the mouth or the outlet of Flathead Lake of that was changing from this natural lake to this, still a natural lake, but the top 10 foot of elevation have some control by our operations or by man. But along with that came what we call flood easements, and easements of what that dam can affect. And the length and magnitude of that is quite extensive. And so not only is it the wetted perimeter of Flathead Lake, but it goes way, way beyond that. And you think about different years, whether it's flood years or different operations, or into the future, because there's always the potential to make the dam higher. And so that is a consideration in the flood easements and the other easement that's there. So this project lies right on the edge of the normal flood easement, but as far as other limitations, those are also out there, and those are considerations when you're looking at something like this. And so I think just with that alone, in our operations there, and knowing what's coming from Mother Nature in the future as we see these abnormal climatic events happening, I can't say it, but next year it could be a 500-year flood event in the Flathead Valley. And I know the flood event that occurred, nearly 100 years ago was quite extensive. Even the one in the 60s was quite an amazing flood event. And so to think about, what's going on in the facilities that are already there with Lakeside, and what's being proposed, I just don't know. I don't know what this seems high risk. And so really what we're saying is that this is not going to work as it's proposed. In our best belief and scientific analysis, we would really like to work with you to find other alternatives. It is a deep interest of everybody. And when you think about the politics of Flathead Lake, I don't know if you've been exposed to it or not, but we certainly do all the time, is that it is quite something. So when you're talking about the water quality of Flathead Lake, that is of utmost interest to a very large population of people. The Flathead River and Ashley Creek, that stream, that valley is much wider than you can imagine. and reaches people farther than you can ever consider outside of our country even. So the interests are quite dramatic. And so we have to do the best job we can because there's so many eyes on it. It's not only our interest and what's right for the environment, what's right for our native species, what's right for us to try to protect potable water whenever we can or restore potable water whenever we can, because that becomes more and more important as we move forward into time. It's really, it's all these interests that are out there. There are a ton of them. And I can't tell you the diversity of people that own homes around Flathead Lake. It is amazing. The people that call me, people I'd never envisioned that I'd be talking to in my wildest dreams. But it's pretty amazing. But so, that's cautionary, but it's a reality. I mean, it really is. And so I think, I wouldn't want to, there's just, as I mentioned before, this is a unique valley. The old historical stream beds of Flathead River, Ashley Creek, et cetera, the biodiversity that lies underneath that ground, but just the matter of how flashy the movement of water is incredible. And so what you're looking at in an injection system like this is you're discharging directly into Ashley Creek. It's so really, if you want to do this, you really need to engage the Clean Water Act, because that's what you're talking about. And because it's just the proximity, the geography of the area, the hydrology of the area, all points directly to that. And if the insect story doesn't buy it for you, I don't know what does, but that's incredible. That is amazing to me. I thought, Jack, you're blowing smoke. But he wasn't. It's just absolutely amazing to know that kind of detail. Yeah. Len?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Once again, thank you all for taking the time to come meet with us this morning on this. I do understand the need for these types of projects, but as I sit here analyzing the map of the location and looking at the wet areas that are surrounding this proposed location, I don't know what the applicant is thinking on why they would want to put a project like this in such a sensitive area. So I do agree with the sentiment of our vice chair that I think you need to respond to the applicant that you need to reconsider another area. This is just, as I was reading the proposed project, they're wanting to inject wastewater into the ground. Not only does that impact fisheries, but the people. The people that have to live nearby this project. At some point in time, it's going to get into everybody's water. So, but anyway, once again, I appreciate you all coming in and meeting with us. But I think, as I mentioned before, I couldn't support a project like this with the location, proposed location. So I'm really hoping that DEQ has that same response to the applicant. So thank you.
That we want to offer as much assistance we can. I mean, it is. I mean, this issue is so large. I mean, it's a large issue, and everybody's just trying to do the best they can. And it's just, are we doing the best we can? Are we putting together the best possible projects, or not? And so, I mean, we don't want to have individual failing systems around Flathead Lake and getting into the water. I enjoy the thought that we can do this in a cumulative thing and larger scale, but do it right. Because I trust that a community system is probably better than individual systems. And when I think of how it's changed in the Flathead Valley and around Flathead Lake, and the number of homes and different permits that individual systems that are out there, it's where is that saturation point? And we're getting really close, if not exceed. If I look at the water quality of Ashley Creek, we've obviously exceeded the carrying capacity of our due diligence to try to maintain water quality standards in a surface stream, a natural water course in the Flathead Valley, Ashley Creek. and we need to do better. And all this does is aggravate that, in my opinion. So I would hope that we could really think about what we can do better. And this is like a wake-up call. You know, there's this project, but you know, it may have been a good project somewhere else. You know, but in this situation and in this location, it certainly can't be. I would hesitate to say that it would ever be. But if we work together and think about what way we can do things, I think that's the way I would hope that we would collaborate with government to government and community to community. And as we all do our due diligence to protect water quality in our environment here, that is so important. I mean, that's why people move here. It's not to have a you know, direct sewage into the stream or the river that they live by, or into the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. It's the fact that it is clean water. It's outstanding. That, you know, it's potable if possible. And I really appreciate any diligence that you can do with that. With that, I'd open it up to any staff that might have anything further to say. Rich?
Members of the Tribal Council, and thank you, Montana DEQ, for coming here. My name is Rich Jansen. I'm the Department Head of Natural Resources for the Salish Kootenai Tribes. Just started my 15th year, and I have a great staff. Chauncey Means, who's my Division Manager of Environmental Protection. I'm standing in the back, and Evan Smith, who's my NPDES and Water Quality Administrator. We've worked very closely with US EPA for the last since 1992. So we're well versed in the Clean Water Act and working with DEQ in some capacity, as well as working with our legal department. Our big concern, one of our big concerns, and you've heard a lot from our council today, and our preservation and our cultural people that we hold in high regard. You know, nitrogen and phosphorus that will be going into Ashley Creek. You know, we're concerned about that increased pollutant that will be coming into there and then ultimately going into Flathead Lake that, you know, ultimately may have an impact on our own water quality standards here on the reservation. And, you know, I think I echo what the council said today, that I think if we work together, you know, to find a better solution for this project would be beneficial for all of us. We know people are moving here. We don't like it, but it's a fact that's occurring, especially since COVID. And when these things continue to happen, more people moving here, increased housing prices, the land getting dissected into many home sites, so to speak. We see it here on the reservation happening everywhere with just small septic systems that are occurring throughout our reservation. We see the need for a treatment plant, but this one that goes directly into the groundwater, to the alluvial fan, as our esteemed vice chair already said, that has worked in natural resources for 35 years and knows what he's talking about. It impacts the water, and once that water is impacted, it's very difficult to clean up. That you all know. You guys all know this. I'm preaching to the choir. So I just want to caution you. You have our comment letter. I know you've seen it because you're here today, you know, with the consultation process. So that was just one comment I wanted to make about nitrogen and phosphorus, that with this additive pollutant into Ashley Creek and into Flathead Lake, that it may have increased complications with our own water quality standards here on the reservation. So just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Members? Okay, yeah, I see Chris is almost getting up. All right, Chauncey. Let's get a couple of basketball players up here. Yeah, it'd be Chauncey and Chris. Okay.
Good morning, members of council, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Chauncey Means, Division Manager for Environmental Protection. One thing I wanted to bring up that this, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a non-discharging facility right now. It keeps the water during the winter season in the lagoons, and then it discharges using land application in the summers, right? So the increase will then need to discharge into the groundwater, but then it'll need a discharging permit. Is that correct? Okay, so one thing I also wanted to ask about is in 2015, 2016, the tribes worked with EPA and DEQ on a TMDL for nutrients, total maximum daily load. So that was never completed. Has DEQ ever considered opening it back up to do a TMDL for the whole Flathead Lake?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit, Chauncey. So there was early work on development of a total maximum daily load for Flathead Lake, and that was paused for a number of reasons. It's a complicated, large water body with many factors and contributing sources. It's not something we've shelved forever. I think we would like to get back to finishing it. I think if you've been following our nutrient water quality standards at the state level, that's been a big challenge for us. So, you know, we would pick up a project like that kind of once we have more of a clear path with implementing those standards, once we know what they are and can implement them.
Yeah, thank you. I think that would be a great document to bring back up to get it going again. I think it's really needed to know how much nutrients are coming into the Flathead Lake and how they can be controlled. So it's not only this facility, it's Whitefish, it's Big Fork, it's all these other facilities where we do have wastewater treatment facilities that could affect water quality. Thank you.
Burbill on the line and her hands up. Jasmine?
Good morning, members of Tribal Council and members of DEQ. I am Jasmine Corville. I am the CSKT Pesticide Program Manager. And I have been sampling surface water reservation-wide for the past decade. We sample for pesticides, pharmaceuticals, and part of this permit, as you may know, this was not mentioned in the permit that I saw. It did mention phosphorus and nitrate increases and reductions. But as far as pesticides and pharmaceutical goes, wastewater treatment plants aren't designed to filter these compounds out. Some of them can affect fish reproduction. Some can affect human health. We do have a lot of wells that get their drinking water from the groundwater permitted. So our concern from our program is how will that concern be addressed? I know Montana also has a Groundwater Protection Act in regards to some of these compounds. So that was my only comment. Thank you for letting me share that.
Thanks, Jasmine. Chris? Staff scientist.
Okay. I just have two comments. I was one of those fishermen in the 60s. And I did fish Ashley Creek. And I recently went back up there because folks in Kalispell, Fisher Friends, also said, what are they talking about? This does have trout in it presently. Whereas the permit's saying, no, it's not meeting these requirements, or the request is, I should say. So I can tell you that they're still there. And if you did a little more research, unlike the folks at Columbia Falls, you will note that those fish are there year-round, not just migrating to and from. They're there next to CF Falls year-round. So there's a problem there. Also at high water, in the sloughs adjacent where this plant's going in, that's where the bull trout and cutthroat trout going during high water events. I've never seen you guys acknowledge that. It's all over the literature and science. So you might want to look a little harder at that. In this particular situation is that Ashley Creek is going to have enhanced stormwater. That's just really something concerning, especially since you got PFAS problem. You're going to increase or do something more significant on the Kalispell treatment plant. That's going directly again into Ashley Creek. That's got a huge temperature problem, but I don't know how you're going to get around that one. And then thirdly is you're trying to lower the water quality standards for Ashley Creek. And doing that all independent, not acknowledged as far as I can tell, in this particular site. It looks to me like you're treating all three of them independently. Back to Ashley Creek itself, ecologically, it's a ditch now. You can look at it and it's a ditch. And no one, as far as I can tell, has revegetated, reshaped to any significant degree. All Parkersley, 4 miles of stream bed, straight as an arrow. Criminal. Now, when you take that into account for the natural resources nearby, I'm a fish biologist by trade, you need to pay much greater attention in your work to document what we actually know presently is in that stream. The fish surveys I saw done recent times, 1 days, short distance, electrofishing. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. It's not how you do it. We have much more common sense methods now. eDNA for one. 1 day you could do the whole stream. Cost you way less than an electrofishing job. So that's kind of where I'm at is I don't think you're appropriately addressing the fish and wildlife resources nearby.
Chris? Yeah, that's incredible, eDNA. You know, you can find out what fish species are in that just from that sampling. It is amazing. Yeah, that's of Ashley Creek. Out there. See, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Yeah, if I might, I would just like to share my screen and show the picture of the flooding easements that you had mentioned there. And hopefully everyone can see this. I can scroll. This is the northern shore here, Flathead Lake. You can see, and then we just move a little bit north here. This here is Wiley Slough, which is right just north of, I believe, the location of the Lakeside County Sewer and Water Discharge location is right around here. And this is Ashley Creek right up there. But all of the little, I just wanted to show this because all the little parcels there that have little circles around them, you can see these little circles with a number, and then I think it says PE. Those are the flooding easements that the SKQ dam has, and you can even see, I don't know if you can read this here, it says project boundary, but the project boundary goes right up and it includes Wiley Slough, and then you can just see all of the parcels all around. I believe not directly on the location where the wastewater would be discharged, but all surrounding there and just throughout the area. And just so you really get a sense, I mean, how connected the surface and groundwater is in this area. So I wanted to share that because that was not included in our comment letter, and the vice chairman mentioned that. So, and I think that's all that I'd like to share.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for coming in. I actually serve on several different boards. One of them is the Western Montana Conservation Commission, and I've learned more about septic systems and septic leachate and all those fun things that people don't talk about in the last few years than I have in probably my entire life, because you don't think about your septic systems. And there are already a lot of systems failing, I'm sure, in that area as well. You know, old farmhouses, old things like that, you know, they mostly fail in about 15 years. And so I imagine most of those residences are a lot older than that. And, you know, you've heard a lot of the other reasons why, you know, we're not going to get into the science of it all, but just that alone is enough to contaminate our water. And that's something that we can't really prevent. That's a private thing, but this is something we can. And I'm all for treatment plants. I'm all for, you know, reducing septic systems and those type of things in more congregated areas. But this is, I mean, just the location of it is something that, you know, the treatment facility is almost scary, you know, if it floods and water's exposed to the lake and the slough and everything. So I really hope that we can reconsider a different location. You know, if we got to be creative, more than willing to do that. And especially now, I think we need to do this. The weather's been different. Things like that, just the chance of flooding in that area is scary. So hopefully we can reconsider this. We have all the scientists and the attorneys and all that we really rely on. They're all experts, and you know, they all feel like this is a bad idea. So I hope you feel the same. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Martin. Any other comments? Yeah. No? Council good? Any additional things, James, you'd like to add, or Rebecca, or?
Just, you have to listen to my voice again, but just
okay.
Thank you again for the invitation to come up here. I mean, we appreciate this. We appreciate a little bit more detail and the emotion and the passion and the feeling behind the concerns that everybody has. We take these things seriously. So definitely grateful for the opportunity.
So when is the decision going to be made?
The end of April.
Yeah, I just want to draw special attention to the fact that we have 3 of our people in the legislature. So that's an awesome thing in history, and we want to make note of that. So we're proud of that and proud of those folks that are in the legislature.
Thank you so much. Good to meet you, and hope you travel safe. And we look forward to further consultation and a positive outcome. I mean, we really want to offer whatever we can to have good outcomes. And we're raising concerns that are deep-rooted and science-based. And so we would hope that you would take that as serious consideration in your process in moving forward. Misty.
Council, I just wanted to sincerely and very heartfelt offer thanks for taking the time for us, for reaching out. I learned a lot today, and like James mentioned, your passion and knowledge about the area is actually really, really inspiring, and I appreciate it so much. I often joke that CSKT is my second favorite reservation. So
what can we do to get to number 1?
Be Fort Belknap, where I'm from. And as always, and yes, Councilman, thank you so much for bringing up that there are 3 CSKT members serving in the legislature. I work very closely with them, and they're wonderful, and they're doing really, really good work. And as always, I hope every person on the council, and including the chairman, know that my door is always open. 1 in 5 Montanans has my cell phone number. So please reach out if there's anything I can ever do for you.
Thank you, Misty. We appreciate your work and your due diligence. Always being available for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Please help yourselves to donuts.
Oh, yeah.
And
Thank
cookies.
you.
Thank you so much.
Well, take a few minutes and we'll take a 5-minute break here. And please, everybody, have a treat. And
I talked to Jen and she said she would get the time to me. When I talked to her a few weeks ago, she didn't have the time.
Okay.
So as soon as I get it, or maybe if Tom gets it first, I don't know. I'll
disseminate that.
Sounds good.
I don't know if I'll get it. She's mad at me right now.
And that's a sneak peek of it or the field trip, or is it installed?
Carol, it's not install. It's more. They have examples. I think they have their design. Yeah.
Okay.
Look at. Yeah.
Okay. Afternoon.
You
so
might want to
hopefully
just give
it's in the
Jennifer a
afternoon.
call. You
Okay.
have her number?
I can text her. Yeah. Yep.
She's mad at me. I won't be her baccalaureate.
Yeah.
Speaker.
Yeah.
My granddaughter's not going to it, so it'd be kind of weird if I went.
All right. Lemlem Specia.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
one follow-up question to that? So they're not coming to install next week, they're coming to show some more design? Is that what's happening next week? I thought the email made it sound like they're coming to start installing.
Misunderstood that, but she said that the people who have the equipment who are going to do the installation are going to be here next Wednesday.
Most of the stuff was already been pre-made, and they actually wanted places to store it. And then they wanted, they want to get it in the ground this spring. Details. Well, Polson would be a yet-to-do project, but
Run in
similar.
first. I'll text her and then get back to everyone and let you know time-wise and then what exactly it entails.
Ronan Treble Hill, so it's right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
From the middle school. We need to move over to the new building. Okay. Oh, there, and look, I can do it. I can try to move it. Put in a work order for us, will you, Jen? Thank you. I'm not, okay, Mark, you're back on. We got it. We got our voting quorum here. Yep. I jokes, no, sit down. No, come on. The update on the Grizz game. So.
Well, good afternoon. I'm here to get approval for a construction contract for the North Fork Jocko diversion. That's been a 3-year in the making project. The contract refers to it as a CMAR, which is Construction Manager at Risk. That's the fancy new term for the old CMGC style contract. So we brought on Dick Anderson Construction during the design of this at about the 60% level to provide constructability input, address issues they might have seen during the design that could affect the construction of it. We're at 100% draft design level right now, and that will be finalized in the next week and a half. We're trying to get construction to begin this year in July. So we're kind of pushing the limit of getting some people on board to allow this to happen. But there is, let me see if I can find page numbers. Here's an overall, I had the engineering firm build us a 3D model for visualization. The upper portion up here in the corner is the fish screen. It's a what do I want to call it? Four screen system, I guess. So as different amounts of water are diverted, each screen will be coming on or become utilized in sequence. The connection from the inlet to the fish screen and the outlet of the headworks over here is a 16-foot wide by 7-foot tall box culvert buried underneath the roadway. To visualize this in the office, we can dissect it, we can blow it apart, we can see everything and how it's designed, built, where it's going to sit. Down here you have the outlets from the fish screen. This is where the fish return pipes are. So fish that do move across the screen will be brought back to the river through these pipes. Up here, and that's, you know, this is the number 2 priority that was on the compact to do, was to allow bull trout movement. Right now, the current diversion is a complete blockage of the river right here. Fish cannot move. New design, there is a fishway designed right into it to allow passage. I guess what's the term? Volutional fish passage. They can come and go as they want through here. And here's just a view of what the upper end, the headwork and intakes looks like. This will be the sluiceway, fishway, roughened rock channel. We've got some sheet pile above and below it. And these 3 gates over here are the inlets to the box culvert that will convey water down to the fish screens and out into the canal itself. Being that this is a remote site, there's no power there. We kind of thought outside the box and went with electrical controllers for the gate actuators, and they're going to be solar powered, and there will be a micro hydro power generation unit built in as part of the return water system down here off of the fish screen. That's a view looking from the inlet of the fish screen down. This structure is big. We're looking at 328 feet of length along the fishway, sluiceway here, and the fish screens from the outlet over here to the inlet is another 300 plus feet. The project is so large it'll be a multi-year effort, looking at 4 years staged out to build this thing. A GMP, a guaranteed maximum price, as part of the efforts that they have done so far. Now this is based on the 90% design level, which is typical of when they try to give a guaranteed maximum price to construct. $943,714.39. There. So I am seeking approval to go ahead and award the contract for construction to Dick Anderson Construction in that amount.
Mark, do you have, what is the tenure of the project? How long do they have to build this?
Yep. Let me see if I can. a guess of how this is going to go. The first year is going to be pretty much heavily focused on the shoring efforts. So along the north side, there's a great big hill right there that has no vegetation. So it's kind of a cut slope. So the shoring contractor will pretty much spend from July, if we can get them in there at that point, through November, trying to put in a soldier pile wall to shore up that hillside. Any excavation that occurs there's a large, large risk of excavation without having some sort of wall in place. So the first year is strictly going to be trying to shore the wall up. Start occurring in the second year. They'll pull out the real lightly bridge that's there and put in a temporary bridge over the Tabor inlet to the canal there so they can start getting equipment where they need it to be. In season 2 is no longer a part of this project. There is 3,100 yards of concrete that need to be placed. So we were going to have a batch plant brought on site to be able to concrete. The batch plant operator has already pulled out. Now, the negotiations have begun with Glacier Sand and Gravel to provide all the concrete. So in year 2 there, they'll finish any remaining tiebacks that are necessary, and they'll start on the excavation and placement of sluiceway concrete, metals, the fish screen slabs at the other end, some of the sheet piling, some backfilling, and then at the end of the year, they'll have to temporarily put everything in place so that the following year, irrigation season wise, water can be diverted. That's the whole thing with this is irrigation has to be able to continue in between construction seasons. So we go into year 3 of construction. We'll finish up the sluiceway concrete, start the box culvert. The site is so tight that, you know, the way the fishway is, the way the sluiceway is and everything, it has to be constructed in specific steps rather than just everything peeled back and put in place. So the box culvert will go in after the sluiceway. Fish screen focus down there, getting more concrete, get the metals package in place, the micro hydro, the returns, start pulling out the cofferdam, some grading within the stream bed, temporary commission it again. On to year 4, which is pretty much the finishing touches year, is when all the electrical starts going into place. The grouted riprap channel, which is the roughened portion of the channel, restoration of the riverbed, and down to being able to demo and haul off that old structure and everything that's there. So it's a massive undertaking.
Micro hydro, is that just like a paddle wheel or is that a turbine? What is it?
Very similar to a little turbine. Yep. That goes right inside the piping. And I'm gonna tell you something like it's a 12-inch pipe, but I don't remember off the top of my head. It installs right in the pipe, and as water returns from the fish screening system, separate of the way the fish get down, but a drain system there, yeah, the water that's moving back to the river turns this thing and it generates its own power, and it'll feed the battery on the control building to power the gates and everything. Putting a generator up there or something like that, but now that introduces noise and you gotta have somebody go fill a propane tank, and now you got a propane tank sitting up in the middle of nowhere that you just don't know what's gonna happen to it, so. Olive, we went olive.
Mark? Motion by Martin to approve the ongoing contracting with Dick Anderson Construction for the North Fork Jocko Diversion Project. Does that sum it up? Okay. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Show of hands.
For your time.
Mark, just one thing briefly, as kind of asked Seth about this the other day, but in relationships to projects and trying to build the workforce and tribal member contracting and et cetera, if there wouldn't be an opportunity to start providing some technical trainings or workshops ahead of time, you know, certifications for people can work on these kind of projects and, you know, learn more or, you know, help facilitate whatever we need to do to, you know, keep more local and hire more tribal members, tribal businesses, et cetera. So, you know, it's a different thing. I mean, I hate to see it get all wrapped up in that, but it's a critical thing for us. And it's critical for us in all of our goals and objectives. So
As it doesn't fully address your statement, but I do know that I have talked with DAC about that, and I know they have reached out to several tribal preference businesses to provide site security, to provide hauling, the aggregate supply. They talked to somebody there. And I know they have, it seems lumber over a 4-year project, but with the currently have, that's not looking at any future hire-ons. They have around 27,000 man hours that are going to tribal members right now. But I know other upcoming projects we're going to how we can, you know, do better. So it's on our minds too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I was just thinking, I know some time ago, we asked our lands department to start looking at gravel sources, establishing these gravel sources. So when these projects come up, we are able to use our tribal gravel and sell to the contractor for these projects. And so I just wanted to mention that. So when we do get there, I would like to see amendments to these contractors to require them to purchase our gravel for these projects. So we'll have to ask Tony and Mark where we're at with that. Because I know that we have a couple other huge projects that are coming up that that we're missing out on revenue if we're not, you know, if we're not using our own gravel source.
At one point, the county roads, because we work with them quite a bit too on road crossings for FIP. There's a gravel pit in St. Ignatius, I guess, that the adjoining landowner was interested in selling. I don't know if it was 10 acres, 15 acres or whatever, but the county road department actually had come and asked whether that was something we would be interested in going together with them on to purchase, and then, you know, basically half theirs, half ours sort of thing. So there would be a potential for gravel right there. I mean, a lot of these projects right now are going on in that end of the valley and everything, and, you know, it's a lot closer than a lot of places, and, you know, it could be a good deal for everybody involved. Bet. Thank you.
Carrie? Come on up, Carrie. Six.
Uh, Council and Vice Chairman. Thanks for having me this afternoon. I have two quick items. The first, you can see on page 62 in your packet. We have approved this draft of non-member pheasant and waterfowl regulations through the Fish, Wildlife, Flathead Indian Reservation Fish and Wildlife Board. They approved this to come to you guys to approve for public comment period, which would be that 30-day period that would be advertised. And so we'll walk through quickly the changes. There are no substantive changes in the regulations that would change any of the regulations. Mainly, it's just changing the dates. You can see on page 1, I'm just adding verbiage that's already in the waterfowl section below, adding it to the pheasant section as well for that special 2-day youth season, the 27th and 28th. There was question last year as to whether youth were able to hunt pheasant as well during that special youth weekend, and they are. So, like, if you read in the description that they, you know, are able to hunt waterfowl and pheasant, so just putting it in that first section to clarify that for folks. And then the only change from previous years is this on page 2, daily bag limit. The change, or the central or the federal flyway framework has based on nationwide population counts and trends of pintail, decided to increase from 1 bag limit to 3. So that means that hunters could have up to 3 pintails in their possession per season. This is all just date changes. And then the only thing that's being added in, again, this is not changing any regulations or changing how the regulations are imposed, but there was confusion last year as to what the boundaries of the Millie's Wood closure were. It's definitely a closure that's been in place for at least 5 years, but never had a map associated with it or a narrative description of where the closure was. So we just included that here to make that more informational and available for hunters to know where that closure is. Yep.
Carrie, is that posted?
It is, yes. So it's been posted with signs, you know, having the closure dates on it. It's been closed or posted each year with metal signs, but we wanted to provide a map so that folks were also just aware generally in the regulations without having to go there. Item I'm able to submit this draft to the public comment period.
So I just have a couple of general ones, not really for the regs, other than I was kind of surprised the pintails are up as far as the population.
Yeah, so in February, the Federal Flyway had their meeting, and that was the recommendation that came out of it. We used to submit our winter waterfowl flight data to the Federal or Central Flyway counts every year, but in 2016, I think they kind of adjusted where their lines are, and they don't include kind of our section in that central or west. Maybe we're west, not central, I don't remember. But either way, our local populations that we monitor each year, we do our brood counts out in the Kicking Horse and Nine Pipe area. And we have been seeing a lot more drier wetlands, but we haven't seen a substantial decrease in species productivity. We are just seeing a lack of kind of overall, meaning that they're just mainly moving to those larger reservoirs.
The questions that I get are always surrounding bird flu and whether or not waterfowl and our game birds are getting bird flu or some variant of bird flu. And then what is the safe handling of birds, especially if you're harvesting them and eating them and there's bird flu? So they're hitting me with all those kind of questions. And I say, well, you know what? I quit doing my bird feeder because I don't want my birds to concentrate anymore because that just passes on disease. And then I noticed the collared doves have disappeared from my house. And I don't know if that's a separate epidemic going on with them because there are none anymore in my neighborhood. I don't know what happened to them. I thought, well, maybe it's bird flu. I don't know. But then I read something about collared dove have a particular disease going on.
As avian influenza, it is present on the landscape. We do have a lot of eagles succumb to mortality because of avian influenza. Trumpeter swans, we've had some, we've seen it in raccoons as well as other kind of just smaller carnivores. So it's definitely present on the landscape. Generally, it's something that would cycle out after a season, after a year. But I mean, golly, this has been going on since 21 maybe. So this is a pretty bad case of avian influenza. And this is the first time that it's presented being spread to other mammals. So, in 22, I think there were grizzly bears euthanized due to contracting avian influenza and having it affect them as well. As far as consumption of harvested animals, there, is always that potential for the transmission via consumption. But, we do every fall swab at our hunter check stations with wildlife services for avian influenza. And we've asked them, how do hunters get their results? And, it hasn't really been an issue. You kind of cook it out and it's not a big deal. But as far as the handling, you want to definitely make sure that you're wearing gloves and, kind of keeping things as clean as possible. The big concern with avian influenza is it's highly pathogenic, meaning that it'll wipe out really, it's really easily spread from wild populations to domestic. And so it'll wipe out domestic, not sheep, chicken farms and poultry, turkey farms. And so that's really why we've seen a lot of that yo-yoing of egg prices over the last couple of years, is because the domestic poultry has been really getting hit hard by avian influenza. It's as easy as walking through a wetland in the same shoes that you feed your chickens in your backyard with, and that if you step in duck poop and then walk through your chicken coop, you potentially have spread it to your coop, and it's very deadly to domestic poultry, but it can persist in wild species and not necessarily be lethal every time. So that's kind of one of the bigger differences and why the effects of it are more seen in that domestic poultry. As far as the Eurasian collared doves, did you say Eurasian collared doves or mourning doves? the collard. I haven't heard of any specific disease on them, but I'll definitely look into that. I know that, they are an invasive species, and so we do have, I believe.
We have a season on them.
Don't think, yeah, we have on them. So, which, is, I guess, on one hand, nice to see that their presence is being restricted a little bit less because they're directly impacting the mourning dove, which is the native species population. So, but I'm not sure, yeah, why they would have all of a sudden disappeared because they're pretty prevalent. So that's interesting. Definitely, I'll be looking into kind of what's going on there.
The draft regulations as approved for promulgation by the Fish and Wildlife Board and staff. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, just a comment on, one of the Trump administrations with all the issues with eggs, made the comment that we all need to get chickens. Well, how are we going to do that when we have this going on, right? It's just pure, utter insanity going on in the administration, just complete. And our two senators and our congressmen on this side of the state are just oblivious to it. They're not saying anything. They're not standing up for anybody other than their silence is complicit with the activities that are going on. So anyway, that's my frustration on, we have these issues come up like this and the administration puts out a word saying, oh, well, you should buy chickens because of the price of eggs. We all need to buy chickens. Well, not with this going on. So anyway, do you need a motion? I make a motion to approve the request.
Motion by James to authorize the advertisement of the regulations. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you very much. And then my last item, I don't have a visual for, but we were in earlier this year, I believe in January, talking about the chronic wasting disease management zone up in the Hog Heaven and Irvin areas. And we didn't make it back in after that initial, I think we were in twice to get another time to give an update, but we didn't come back in after that. So we're coming in to ask to make, sorry, my brain is getting all my words mixed up now, to have hunters that are hunting in the Hog Heaven and the Irvin management areas, have it mandatory for them to submit chronic wasting disease samples to our program, or not to our program, but have them submit them, and then our program can submit those so that it's at free cost to the tribal member hunters. We have the opportunity during the hunting season. We had 2 check stations out there this year, kind of so anyone approaching from the highway there on either side had the opportunity to have the samples pulled for them by our technicians. We have hunter sampling kits that the public can take with them and harvest their own samples and just bring us the little bags with the lymph nodes. Our office is open Monday through Thursday, and so anyone's available to bring us their animal or the head and we can pull the sample for them. And then we also have a bin that is available outside 24/7 so that if folks are hunting on the weekends, if it's cool enough, they can drop the head in the bin and we can pull it and get back to them on Monday. So those are things we've had in place really to expand the ability for hunters to be able to get their animals sampled. And we just currently got 4 dates planned with both culture committees to do some outreach and sampling workshops coming up in April and May. So we'll be putting flyers out with the next food distribution box so that as many people as possible, we can get the word out on those 4 opportunities coming up. I think Food Sovereignty is going to try and also couple them with dry meat socials to really get interest and have those well attended because they're going to be informational CWD outreach events, and then we'll also provide the opportunity for folks to learn how to pull samples in the field and have those hunter sampling kits available for folks. We did present information about CWD and the positive case that we had on the reservation and our plan going forward to both culture committees in, was that February? Early February. And, you know, we let them know that we would be requesting for mandatory sampling within the CWD management zone. They were in support of that, and there was much discussion on, you know, them being in support of the entire reservation being mandatory sampling. That's not something we're asking at this time, but we are currently putting just today put out a tribal member survey for big game and hunting. And one of the questions on there is asking whether or not what the tribal membership would or wouldn't support as far as mitigation or management tools for CWD, and that is one of the questions on there. So probably the next time we come in for our larger member regulations, you know, based on the results we get from there, you might see a request then. But right now we're just restricting it to the CWD management zone to help us kind of manage that area.
Council, I think it's actually our obligation, our responsibility, because this is a human health issue, trying to prevent the jump from chronic wasting disease in wildlife into human beings. And it's certainly very serious. And so I think it's very warranted to have a mandated requirement just for the health of the individual hunter, along with us defining, you know, if it's growing or shrinking, that we have a mandatory requirement for testing in any animal, any deer or moose animal harvested in the surveillance area. So, James?
Yeah, you know, this goes right with the previous conversation. You know, I was reading earlier about one of the major chicken farmers, you know, last Easter, a year ago, you know, they know they have, you know, millions of chickens, but they noticed 70 died, then 10,000 died, then 6.5 million died within 8 days. And then, you know, Biden gets blamed for all of that. And that's one of their concerns, you know, that transfer to people. And, you know, they had a death in Louisiana because it transferred. And our great and almighty, all-seeing and all-knowing and all-powerful bozo in the White House puts JFK or RFK Jr. in as his, he doesn't believe in vaccinations. You know, his comment he came out with was, well, let's just let bird flu run its natural course. And that's what his comment would be on this issue as well. You know, we thought COVID was bad. You know, we have an administration as utterly ignorant as to the scientific implications of this. And, you know, and I think probably a number of us have this, but down in St. Ignatius out by Mission Dam, there's 10, 15 deer, 20, 30. There's carcasses of deer that have been hit on that road or in the fields. You know, I've talked to the different neighboring farmers, one of them my uncle, but there's deer in each one of those fields with a broken leg. They got hit by a car, what have you. You know, chronic wasting disease gets into those populations. It's pretty easy to see the transmission, you know, all of the different birds, the critters, the dogs, pets that are eating those carcasses that have, you know, this disease. How far is that to biologically transfer to those animals, you know, our pets? Every one of us have had dogs that go grab some piece of an animal from somewhere, but where do they drag it? Home. So, I mean, so the leap to humans is not that far. And so I think what's more concerning to me is, You know, when we had COVID before, Trump just publicly said, "Oh, put bleach in your veins." And so there were people out there actually doing that. And so I think for us, you know, and I think for, you know, I mentioned this a week ago or so, I think we as a council, we need some sort of message to our membership that we're doing everything we possibly can. You know, we're not going to have a lot of specific answers, but are we trying to make sure chronic wasting disease is contained? Yes. Are we trying to do what we can in terms of the other issue we approved? You know, yes. You know, in terms of all this craziness we heard earlier about the Department of Ed, yes, we're trying everything we possibly can because people that are talking to me and all of us as council members, they're worried about their jobs and their families and the price of stuff and Medicaid and Social Security and all these things. And I get we don't have an answer, but I think this is one of those times where the leadership has to have a message of confidence, comforting to all those questions. You all have as staff members and tribal members. What is our leadership doing? And this is one of those times we need to have that message to say, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're trying to do. We don't have all the answers, but we are trying to keep an eye on it, and our staff is as well. And so I kind of mentioned that to Rob as well. I said, yeah, we don't have all the answers. We're not going to have all the answers, but we do have to communicate a reassurance of some sort to our membership, our citizens, our tribal people, that we're not just doing we're not engaged. We are engaged. You know, all different council members that have gone to DC, they're lobbying and they're talking and they're doing those things. So anyway, thank you.
Was that a motion?
It'll be is a motion.
Motion by James to require harvest of the deer family in the surveillance area to be for mandatory chronic wasting disease testing. Seeing none, all's in favor?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Just a second. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, I just have one question. So if bird flu can be transmitted through bird poop, I walk my dog in Polson by the lake a lot. And those parks, that park down by the river is covered in bird poop. People letting their dogs just poop everywhere, because I pick up my dog's poop. I have little bags and I do the thing. It's goose. It's the Canadian geese. And I taught I taught a yoga class at the park years ago, and I only did it once because I got bird poop all over my yoga mat. There's no space down there that does not have bird poop. It's so gross. So is that a hazard too? Like all those little kids running around down there, it's covered in bird poop.
Goose are very prolific. And yeah, I mean, there's always that possibility, especially dogs, tromping through there, consuming the poop. Yeah, as far as kids walking through, I mean, as long as we're washing off and, especially similarly to what we'd be doing for swimmer's itch, I don't think it's as big of a concern as long as the kids aren't eating it. But as far as bringing it back and potentially spreading it to domestic birds, that could be something to think about if you're walking your dogs across. Kicking horse, a lot of folks do that live in the area, and if they have domestic birds at home, that might be a concern.
Mr. Vice Chair, a quick update. I heard today that for the Flathead Reservation Fish and Wildlife Board, Alan Mickelson has stepped down as a member. Susan Lake and Andy Larson are going to be receiving their letters soon as renewal of their positions, and a new appointee will be appointed soon.
All right, who's up next? Todd, Mr. Espinoza.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Todd Espinoza. I am with the Wildland Recreation Program. I am here to request approval of the fee schedule for the 2025 season for Blue Bay Campground. I'll just give you a minute to look through it there and let me know if you have any comments or questions.
Sure. You whispered, Todd, I'm assuming the electrical hookup rate is based on the rate change at MVP?
Yeah, it is. It's gone up a lot this last 2 years, so we're just trying to keep up with that. As you can see, the rate increase went up $5 for each. Travel members are still less than half, and that's on par with the rest of the lake too. In a cost comparison with all the campgrounds and marinas around the lake, we're right on average with those two.
James?
Yeah, thank you. It's been a while since I've been on council and been up to Blue Bay, but has the electrical been upgraded in there since 2006, 4, 3?
Yep, we did an entire overhaul about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Redid all the electrical sites, redid all the water, and a lot of the sewer lines as well. So they're all proper depth. They added about 20 sites now too. So it's that entire length is all full service electrical sites.
Okay.
It also increased our CSKT Housing Authority bills significantly, but we can have more space now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The other question I have is, years ago, I don't know what it is now, but you'd have a travel member get up there early in the season and mark out their spot, and then they're parked there the whole season, whether they're there personally or not, but their camper or tent is there. What is the time frame in terms of travel members being there in one spot? I mean, because other travel members try to get up to Blue Bay. Well, I can't get up to Blue Bay because so-and-so's has their camper parked there the whole season. I don't think that's fair. I know those people that park there won't be pissed off that I'm bringing this up. However, I think it's reasonable to say, look, to tribal members that are used to staking out their claim and being there for the whole season, if that's not happening, great. If that is happening, then I think we really seriously need to think and say to those tribal members, say, look, we have other tribal members that would like to go up there and be able to utilize the facilities there. I don't think it's fair to you, to all the members, that you're just camped here the whole season and you're leaving your RV or whatever it is there, reserved. And anyway, that's my issue. I've heard different people complain about that over the 20 years. And I know it's a hard thing for you all to deal with, to say, hey, you're a tribal member, you can use this facility. However, I think we really need to think about, one, either taking other tribal land that we might have on the lake or in this other transfer process to say, hey, let's try figuring out some other areas people could, utilize as a camping area besides Blue Bay. But anyway, long story rambling short, that's my issue and my question. Thank you.
Yeah, we did address that about 2 years ago. We did a rule change. So there's a limit. I believe it's 2 weeks at a time. then they have to be gone for a certain amount of time and then they can return. Sorry, I don't have the rules set in front of me, but I believe it's right around 2 weeks because we did
Okay.
have that complaint. People were
Yeah, I
kind of posting
appreciate
up all
that.
season.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. I
Mhm.
appreciate you all dealing with that and me catching up to modern times.
Yeah, sure.
I have a motion by Martin and a second by Carol to approve the fee schedule for Blue Bay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, no, question is I see TP rentals on here and like a barge rental or to rent that space. Is the rental for the TP just for day use or is that for overnight? And does the barge thing get used often?
The TP rentals is per night. So a lot of times those get used more so by the camps, the cultural camps, educational camps we have. So they'll tell stories around the campfire. You know, we can set up about 6 TPs up there. Each of them come with cots. So that's what the TP is. It's 75 per night. And the barge rental usually gets used by different dock companies around the lake. So they might pull in for, 25 minutes, some of them 45 minutes, at $75 per usage, and they're just unloading at the dock itself there. So just yesterday we had Macrum docks actually reach out and they were going to unload. It's fairly rare, but we do like them to pay because they are taking up the space and they're using the facility.
I'm sure how often that stuff was used or what they were using
sure.
it for. I'm glad that they're taking advantage of those TP rentals up there and the kids are getting some good experiences.
Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. You, Todd?
Thank you. I actually had one more thing I wanted to bring up too. The annual fishing derby out at Kicking Horse. The last 2 years we've done it. Last year was awesome. We had a great turnout, about 90 people. A lot of tribal members came. The Fish Mountain Youth Crew participated, and the winner of the entire event, they're only fishing for non-native species, was a pike. It was huge, almost as big as the kid that won it. So he was very excited. I wanted to reach out to see if we could do the same thing we did last year for that event and make it a change of duty for that day. It's the day after Father's Day. It is for Men's Health, so Tribal helped us set up some informational booths. We give out prizes and we offer food for everybody. But I wanted to put out that request while I was here as well.
Can I add to be maybe women and men? I think that we had a conflict last year where moms or grandmas that want to take their grandsons or sons didn't feel supported to do that because they were not granted change of duty. So I think that was a consideration last year. Not just men, women.
I'm not sure this fits the Trump profile, men, women, I don't know. I might get in trouble. Council okay with that? Do you need a motion? I don't know what the date is.
June 16th.
June 16th?
Yep, the day after Father's Day.
So change the duty station for employees with supervisor approval to participate in the Kicking Horse Wellness event.
Be great.
Motion by Martin. Second by Bing. See none, all those in favor? Pike.
I think it was 35 inches or so. It was the biggest one brought in. See if they can do it this year.
Like 20 pounds?
Oh, I can't remember the weight. It was pouring rain when we were waiting. It was one of the last fish brought in. I can't remember the weight on it, but yeah, it was massive.
Dang.
He won a kayak donated by
Really?
Health.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, some good prizes.
Okay. Thank you,
So
Todd.
if any of you would like to participate, mountain fish.
On a Monday.
Yeah. Well, thank you all.
Yeah, go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Todd, before you go, what is the toilet situation up on the campgrounds? How's that going?
It's going good. We actually had a meeting just the other day in IDT. Mark Chur saying that he put in that massive order. I believe there's 16 potential. We will be, the Wildland Recreation Program will be installing one at South Fork Gate this year, and then also one up in Elmo at the new park there. And then we have 2 more coming next year as well. So it's a slow moving process. When they put in these orders, it usually takes about a year for them to complete. Also working with non-point source funds. There's a potential 12 more added to that. And a lot of those are going in areas where there was already pre-existing pit toilets, but that are leaching into the waterways. So these will go to exchange a lot of those up, mostly up Jocko area. There was a lot that were right next to wetlands or next to the river. So they'll hopefully be, if the grant goes through, they've been kind of turning back a lot of these grants. So if it goes through, we would still be doing that as well. So there's a lot coming in the coming years. Yeah, about a year out on each of those constructions.
Back there, there's donuts over there in case you guys get weak. I know Kenny already had one, so you can have two, Kenny. Faust, you can go over there and have a couple. Everett, you can get over there if you want. Mary Rose, come on up.
I'm here today to request some grant funding. Mountains and Plains Environmental Justice Center was awarded with EPA funds to do some environmental justice projects. I know those aren't words we're supposed to use anymore. So this is going to be a sub-grant through them. It is EPA funds, and I know we just never know what's going to happen with that, but I would hate to not apply for it and then be kicking myself later wishing we would have. So it's up to 350,000 that we can apply for. This is more money that I'm trying to shove towards Rive Creek and restoration project down at Flathead Post and Pole, and then some elder housing and other houses that have been burned up across the reservation to get those demolished. That's what I'm pushing the funding for. So the action requested is I'm looking for approval to apply for the upcoming funding sub-award through the Thriving Communities Grants and Mountains and Plains Environmental Justice Program.
Jennifer? Seeing none? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Okay, lunch.
Yep.
I too want to slide something in. Looking for a change of duty with supervisor approval for Earth Day activities to take place on Thursday, April 24th. It'll be our annual CSKT highway cleanup for mile marker 50 to 52.
Motion by Martin. I don't know if you can say Earth Day anymore. I don't know.
There is cleanup of Highway 93.
From cleanup day? Motion by Martin. Second by Danielle. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
That was a long list of words. I only got through a quarter of it, by the way. Thank you. Lunch.
You, Mary Rose, thank you. Vote.
And talk. Okay, sorry, I know I felt things in my pocket. Great. Nan, do you want to turn your camera on? Or should no, should be online. I don't see my pages though, Jen. 69 and 70. I'm here to talk about 568. Oh, maybe I'm just down below here. So we are happily here, not needing approval for anything today because these are activities on Flathead Lake, but wanting to give an opportunity to the group who has been doing the annual Paddle Palooza and the Montana Dragon Boat Festival. If you can see page 70. With her red shirt, if you can see her, and Jamie Stevenson is here as well. And maybe I'll give them just a quick minute to give an update. And ladies, we're trying to get our little poster up.
Sure. Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us here today. I know a few of you met Kimokeo Kapahuluhua a few years back. You know, we've worked with Vernon Finley for, well, since the second Paddlepalooza. This will be our 6th year. We have paddlers coming from Tahiti, Hawaii, the Lemhi Nation, the Quinaults. We have Pak Morjo from your reservation is helping lead an opening ceremony. It's really, the Paddlepalooza is really about honoring our earth and, of course, our beautiful space, which we are very grateful to you all for. I know originally we had been in Elmo and then we moved to Polson, to the Polson Fairgrounds. But really, this is just to ask for your blessing, include as many people. We really want to get youth involved. That's what I've asked. Jamie paddles with us. We paddle outrigger canoes and dragon boats. Some of you may have seen we have a canoe club now in Big Arm. We're a breast cancer. We started off as a breast cancer group, but now we've just built more of a community around the boat. And, you know, in these crazy times, we need more community than ever. So really, this is a thank you and an ask to join us on any of these weekends. We have started radio advertising up there. We're doing social media. There'll be print media. We'll have vendors. We're open to vendors, paddlers. But we also really, one of our big pushes is to get the kids involved. And we are offering free registration for the Montana Dragon Boat Festival for youth from 12 to 18 years old. So Jamie, who is there and works at Two Eagle, I think she's going to try to get some motivated from her school, and we'd like to get kids really from all the schools. So really, this is just an ask for a blessing, like I said. And Jamie, I'll let you talk a little bit about from your point of view, and maybe Kimokeo will jump on here shortly. He's in Brazil. You're muted, Jamie.
Sorry, I'm talking to students in the room. I'm here not in my capacity as a Two Eagle teacher, but as a community member, and I paddle with the Montana Canoe Club. And I've worked with Nan, and I'm just so glad to see that she's presenting to council today and wanted to be here in support. Those of you who know about our Sturgeon Nose Canoe project from last year, the Indigenous Science class and community-based research class successfully built a sturgeon nose canoe. And so we have quite a few students here who are interested in paddling and in being in canoes and being on the water for all sorts of current and historical and cultural reasons. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can wrangle some of them in the summertime months to paddle with Nan and these guys as well. So that's it.
Yeah, and we'd love to have a council team. That would be great. We'll put that out there. We'd love to have you guys all come paddle with us. So really, yep, that is it. I'm sorry, Kimokeo is not here with us. He's in Brazil right now, starting more canoe clubs down there. But Whisper has my contact information. We would love any and all. We are open to all, not just cancer survivors, but everyone. So yeah, we just want to say, you know, mahalo, and come join us.
It's certainly a great event, and yeah, it'd be fun to go out there and participate. We do suffer from whirling disease, so we would paddle in a circle. That's true, as Martin said. But, it's a lot of fun. It certainly is. Yeah, appreciate the effort.
Thank you.
couple of months ago for the board for NIFKI.
Hi, Angela.
So good afternoon. I did put in the issue brief, so I'll start by introducing two new board members that you did hire for our NIFKI business. And we had John Matt and still have Tracy and Shane Hendrickson was on it prior. He had to resign for conflicts of interest, and John Matt just moved on. So these are our two new board members, and we met for the first time a couple weeks ago. And the other two board members nominated, Evan is the chair of the board. So as per our bylaws here, Evan's going to walk you through some financial information on our annual activities and tell you a little bit about some of the other actions the board just took. And I'm just here to answer any questions and take the heat.
Then maybe you're going to bring Barely Handsome with you, but I don't see him.
I'm surprised he's not on.
Just remember that he said he would take the heat.
There's some errors in the document I'm responsible for. We'll see if you pick them up.
So this is pretty simple. We're just doing an annual report, not asking for anything today. To start off, we're going to show you how we did with our lake trout and whitefish. As we know, lake trout is the target and whitefish is just a bycatch that we get. This was nice to see when I'm getting back on the board because I used to work with fisheries for almost 15 years. So a lot of this data is something that I got to be a part of. We'll start off with just the pounds caught. We'll see how we did here on page 72. And we see the values that we have for $8. The reason that we have a little bit lower for lake trout, we'll get into that just in the next page. But we like to stick at $8 and we will be trying to aim for $9 in the future. So just a recap here, we caught 14,000 pounds and we were able to get about, what do we have, $70,000, or so, excuse me, we were able to get 9,000 pounds and $71,000 of our lake trout and 5,000 pounds with $4,000 of our lake whitefish. That the numbers were just a little bit lower. On the first page, we have that 7.97 is we did find a place that we can take some fish, the zoo lake trout. This is just where they take some smaller fish that aren't desirable in the market. So we don't have to address them. We can just give them whole. So this is just kind of an easy layup for us to address some smaller fish and help them out with this other zoo, just giving them some bear food. And that's why that has dropped down just a little bit below the $8. For the expenditures, we have our insurance that we have each year for the company. We have our Carver and our, is it fork? And James as our expenditures there, and that is just our bookkeeping. We have just forget for the old name, it's the account name that we can't change, the CUR, and that's where we throw the amount that we make back into the company. So going down to the bars here, we're seeing how we did, and we can see where we're growing. We do have a little dip. Of course, we had our dip there in COVID, and then this last dip is one big reason is we are showing signs that we're actually making a dip in our catches for lake trout. So there is signs of getting the numbers down. So we're actually seeing that we're starting to make some progress. And that's one sign. We did have a little bit of problems with some boat maintenance. We got that back on track. But I'm sure Les wants to celebrate a little happiness about hitting a milestone of $1 million. If we hit almost about 150 fish with the fish increase, we'll have made $1 million in our cost reduction for this program of reducing these lake trout. And it's pretty basically simple. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
This probably be a question for Les from a fisheries biologist standpoint, but what is the methodology that is used to determine if our lake trout eradication project is working? I mean, on a year by year basis, how can we tell by the number of fish that we take every year versus the population?
Right. Well, when we started, we had some research done that developed a model on species out there, particularly lake trout predation on native trout and bull trout in particular. And so it's all a big model, which is just a model. So you don't know that they're really accurate, but it gave us a pretty good idea. We put that into an EIS, came to the tribal council with some alternatives on how much to reduce. And the tribal council selected 75% reduction in lake trout. So through that model, we got an annual harvest that we were trying to target. And that's 141,000 fish a year sustained. And although I didn't bring that graphic, we'll be back in shortly. I was explaining to the council the other day about netting north of the reservation and how we're going to proceed with that. But, you know, we increased harvest smack days, it leveled out, couldn't get any more out of it. So we came to you and decided to go to netting. We got the harvest back up and then we leveled out again. And that's where we're at now, is we've leveled back out and we haven't got to the 141,000. So we're just incrementally trying to get more each year. And I think we're probably about 120 or 130, but we've plateaued out. That's why we think we need to go north. So that's where the target comes from. And if we achieve that target for 3 or 4 years, we'll see significant drop pretty quickly. And we are seeing a drop. So the monitoring data shows us that we are having the impact that we're looking for. There's fewer lake trout out here, and as Evan just explained, one of the reasons that we dropped off in sales so much is we can't keep up. We're not catching enough to keep up, and we're not satisfying our customers any longer. And so we're addressing that 2 ways. We want to go north. We think we'll be more productive by going over off the reservation to fish. So we'll have more product, but the other action the board took, looking at this graphic here, is to the business, it's supply and demand. So we're going to up from $8 a pound to $9 a pound. Now, between those 2 things, more fish and higher fish, when we come in next year, we only need to make this next year's number about 150,000. We think we can do it with more fish and more per pound. So next year we'll hit the $1 million mark that we've netted, not netted in the terms of
yeah,
not gross, but net profits. About half of those are netted and half are MAC days. But next year we'll hit the $1 million mark is what we hope. But we're trying to hit a harvest target, which we haven't achieved quite yet. But we do know we're very effectively, and that's why that number is so low. We just can't catch the fish like we were catching the fish. And then our monitoring data that we net lake wide on and off reservation shows us that right now there's more fish off reservation than there are on reservation. That's why we're going north.
Okay. And one of the reasons why I ask is that question has come up a couple times at the Kootenai Elders meeting.
Yeah.
So if you guys can maybe get on their agenda and give them a report also and explain that to them, because that was a question that I didn't have an answer for them.
Yeah, we just did that about a month ago. You brought that up a while back, and we scheduled, and we had a good meeting with them. Very good interaction. Tony was there, and Jordan was there, and which pleased me that they don't get this kind of information. We don't have an opportunity to present to those guys as much as we did. And we had a great interaction with them and showed them those results. And
all right,
it was very productive.
All right. Thanks, Les.
Yeah.
For the fish keepers, I guess I have a question. Let's talk about whitefish. And So I knew that, you know, if we're successful, we're going to put ourselves out of business, right? That was the goal.
Right.
But if to keep the management activity financed, we were looking at that bycatch of lake whitefish as another non-native fish species, and the fact that that is a desirable commercial fish fillet, as is the you know, if you were to do a caviar type thing out of it. But so what's the plan there? Are you going to try to increase there, or is there room for that, or what's the whitefish direction?
Yeah, right now we're still in the mode to, in our netting program, to avoid them as much as we can, simply because they take a lot of time. And so they're just simply bycatch, but when we get them, we process them and we do sell them. I just heard this number this morning, and it's past me now, but you can see right now that it's not 50% of our sales, but it's up there. But at the moment, it's mostly still bycatch. In the future, absolutely. If we need the money to keep the program sustainable, it might eventually, if we're successful, I think you're absolutely right. We'll probably be targeting to keep the money flowing, especially unless we find these new markets for small fish. Because one of the things that happens with a population like this, when you suppress it, there tend to be a lot more smaller fish, and they're not as marketable. We were lucky to find the zoo market, and we might expand that, because right now we're like with the big fish, because they're full of mercury, we don't use them. We throw those away, unfortunately. Well, we don't throw anything away. They go to fertilizer. The small fish have been going there. So we're lucky to find a new market. And that's one of the other indicators. The abundance of small fish out there is coming on. So we'll be in, before we go present to this BERT team that I told you about, we'll probably use you as a sounding board for the science. Come in here with charts and graphs, and I know you don't like that necessarily, but it'll help us to present to you all before we go present to the BERT, justifying us going off reservation to fish. And that'd be a good question for Barry. I think we'll get there where we're probably so low. The native trout are responding. They're not in a significant manner that you can statistically measure it, but clearly the anglers are seeing more bull trout, and we're catching more of them in MAC days, but it's at a level that you really couldn't put the science and statistics to it and say, yeah, they're going up. But clearly lake trout are going down. We expected a lag, and I think that's where we're at now. We're lagging, and then to keep the money flowing, it's a good program. It employs a lot of people, and there's certainly a demand. We can't keep up with either species right now.
So what zoo's buying them? What zoo is buying them?
It's a zoo in Billings, actually.
Oh, Zoo Montana.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That just started, and I think it'll grow a little bit. Maybe some other zoos. I don't know.
I recall when we did our field trip, the group that I part of, the Wildlife Restoration Foundation, half of the members of that are zoo managers.
Yeah.
And when we went to Blue Bay, that was the topic, whether or not that was an outcome of that. But I could bring that forward in the board meetings that, you know, we have this opportunity, and it's all the big zoos in the United States.
Well, and as you can see, we give them basically a half price rate. It's $4 a pound to them, but we don't have to process them at all. We don't gut them, we don't handle them, we just throw them in one big bag and freeze them. So that's still probably, relative to the cost of producing this fish, is probably even better than $8 a pound. You process it and individually like we do, it's expensive. So these zoo fish are profit-making fish, even though it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, how many boats do we have that are doing the gill netting operation?
We have a fleet of 3 gill netting boats, and then we have support boats too. The bigger boats will go out, spend much of the day out there, and then we'll shuttle. Another boat will shuttle back and forth. we've had such mechanical problems lately. Sometimes those shuttle posts are towing them back. But no, last year, we increased our fleet, our bigger boat by one. And we completed the shore station out there, so we won't have, the problem with the big boats, with the lake coming down, we can't get them in. Like right now, we can't use them. That's a problem. But in the future, with the investment out there in the shore station, we won't, at least one of the big boats will stay in year round and be available to use in the tougher weather, which is into December. You want those bigger boats and those fall storms and stuff. So that's gonna help us out quite a bit. But there's 3 netting boats. We have 2 other support boats involved at a time, but that might change. I'm 1 boat netting at a time.
Something right there. So was the mercury as fertilizer in the production of fruits and vegetables? Is that problematic?
No, we actually tested that. We ran tests on it. It doesn't get absorbed by the plants. We've done I didn't do the research. Barry and the college actually did the research, but we were concerned about that and tested it. It doesn't get, unlike a fish, it does go through the food chain in a fish, but it doesn't get absorbed by the roots into the vegetables. We looked at that.
Quite a bit. So right now, your market is just within the state of Montana. Is that correct?
Technically, we're only allowed to sell within the state of Montana, given our qualifications, food qualifications. What our distributors do with them, we don't care. We know some of them take them to Yellowstone Park, and we're selling lake trout, even though they're suppressing lake trout right out the front door. They're eating our lake trout in the restaurants. But yeah, I happen to have that. About 22% of it goes to Quality Foods distributing out of Bozeman, and that goes all the way to Billings and sometimes into the park. Flathead Fish is our next biggest customer up out of Kalispell, and then Super One sells a lot of our fish year round. They always have it there, and they're handy. We deliver to 1 or 2 restaurants. We deliver only to local businesses around the lake. Other than that, you've got to go to a distributor. But Quality Foods has been the best, and we've kind of erred in favor of supporting them in these tight times because they've really done a good job. Zoo even, just because they're going that far.
The paradigm might change as we develop our commercial nature of the processing plant in Ronan for red meat products with the on-site food inspector, meat inspector. I don't know if that might alleviate that concern. I know we're trying to skirt around the requirements to go outside of the state. There might be an opportunity there to expand the market. I don't know. But if you're limited right now and you're not fulfilling your demand as it is, I don't know. I just know that the market is great as you go to other places like for whitefish. Certainly the whitefish market is dramatic. And so there's great opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah, right now it's not an issue, like you say, and it's a federal restriction really on our federal qualifications. But yeah, it's not something we probably couldn't address if we needed to. You to do it.
For Les and Bill and Evan, thank you for serving. Appreciate that. I know they're just feeding you in fish, but take what you get.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Get home and watch Gonzaga.
Now, hey, I go both ways. Come on now. Your way out so I don't take those. Kenny, you really can have more than one. Come on, get over there.
But Janet's on, she's ready if you guys are ready to keep going.
Do you guys need a break or keep going? Five-minute break.
Hey, I just wanted to share really quickly. I had a sample, I just ate it, but these are the Puyallup chocolates. They have their own chocolate company and they also have their own vaping. They gave me samples because I said I don't vape. People who vaped who were asking for samples, they said no. And they said, well, you can have these and take them back to your tribe. Because I think they knew they would get back here because I wouldn't use it. So, yeah, so they have their own vaping, whatever these are, cartridges. And they have a chocolate company. They're Puyallup Tribal Enterprises. Their chocolate companies listed. They own a golf course and a seafood and chop house and some other business. And they said they're making $200 million a year. $200 million a year. Innovative. This is interesting. They're selling gourmet chocolates. I just ate these. They were really good. And you can go online and like order these fancy gift boxes of chocolates. And then they asked me to give these to S&K Gaming. I'm not a vapor or a smoker, but I don't know if they even sell cigarettes and vaping stuff. But if they did, there's an opportunity to carry tribally owned. But I feel like $200 million is a lot. Let's see, I'm just looking on their website. So they own a bunch of businesses, actually, Tom. Wine company, chocolates, construction company, real estate. So they do real estate. Fuel.
What are they?
It's a vaping cartridge. I'll give one of these to gaming so they can look at it. Yeah, the Puyallup tribe that owns a vaping. Their tribes to carry their products. Then they have these fancy chocolates.
I'll just stick to my cigarettes, thank you.
Yeah. They were good. Yeah, they're like gourmet. The other ones I had, they have chocolate covered cherries, and this was chocolate covered graham crackers. They have like, you can buy these fancy gift boxes. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm just stumped on why.
I know.
We're just stagnant.
We are.
We ain't moving forward. Or people, but other than the social program. Provide the existing.
Yeah, if you can hear us.
Good
Hold on.
afternoon. Okay.
Time, Velda and Janet.
Good afternoon. You're muted, Velda.
Do you have any more that are presenting that are zooming in? We need to let in.
Mike Bestwick
Okay.
and maybe Lisa Shorts. I don't know if she's zooming or joining in person. She might not have been able to make it.
She's in the building. She's just right outside. She'll be here.
Okay, great.
And Lisa's in the room. So
Great.
like your full entourage is here.
Yay.
Okay, so we're ready?
Yipanune.
Okay. Kisakiakit kapinaskit aki ituum nasukin. Good afternoon, council and our esteemed colleagues, everybody who's joined us. So today we need some council action to select a contractor to do the construction of the meat processing facility site on Mink Lane. We let out the bid packets last month, February 11th, and solicited proposals. On Monday, we received 2 qualified proposals, and today we'd like to recommend the bid. Oh, well, we're going to need action. Okay, I don't know. I'm not going to discuss amounts yet, but so we'd like to proceed with the contract with a company called Camas Creek Contracting out of Kalispell. They actually had a low bid and they met all our criteria, so that's exciting for us. So today we're going to ask the approval to proceed with the contract, and then we also want to have some support. We're going to need legal review. So if you can direct us or direct our legal department to assist us with the final contract language, because of all the construction and technical aspects, it would help so that we can merge this construction contract into the tribally accepted contract. So that's where we're at today. And Janet, do you want to give them some background on how we formed our review committee and did the evaluation to make this recommendation?
Certainly. Thank you, Velda.
Thank you.
So what we did is first of all, we looked at the amounts that each contractor bid. We did have a pre-bid meeting the end of February, and many contractors actually attended that meeting. We did require a 10% bid bond. And according to CFRs, we had to require 100% performance bond and payment bond so that all of the subcontractors would be guaranteed payment. I think that ruled some folks out of the running, but the 2 complete bid packets that we received, one was from Corland Construction out of Sydney, Montana, and Camas Creek Contracting. They, as Velda had mentioned, are out of Kalispell, and they completed the Stick Game Pavilion in Elmo, and they have worked on other projects with our engineer, Jacola, out of Kalispell, and they've also worked with SKMM on another project. Lisa Shorts was part of our review committee, along with Melinda Charlot, myself, Velda, and Mike Bestwick, our engineer from Jacola. And I'd like to introduce you to him. He's joined us via Zoom. Yeah, you can probably see him waving. He's been working with us since May to help us finalize all of the designs, all of the site designs for all of the infrastructure, the foundations, the corrals, the holding pens, the chute system, the office building, everything. So we are indebted to Mike for his excellent work, and now we're at the point where we're ready to award a contract. And so we're really excited that the contract came in within our budget, because we were worried with escalating costs that might not be the case. So we're ready to proceed if you're willing to approve this contract with Camas Creek Contracting.
Yeah, Janet, did we see a design yet?
Yes, the plan. So when it went out for bid, oh, did council see a design?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. We've presented multiple times, showing you the site plan. The full engineering plans are many pages and they're very large. So I have those available if anybody wants to look at them. I don't know if you have a site plan handy, Mike. I could pull one up if you want to see it really quickly.
Janet, the question I have is, did Jacola do tribal health in Ronan?
I don't know about that.
No, that was MMW.
Is
the
it,
Ronan house.
is it a chicken coop design?
No, no,
Oh,
they,
it wasn't supposed to be in Ronan either, but now with that, that's what we have.
right, they're not even doing a lot of the structure. Those are containers that they're getting, so they're basically doing a lot of site prep.
Okay, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it just makes me mad when we point out we don't want that, and then next thing you know, the roof's like this, and it's like, we're gonna have water problems, so I'm a little bit teed off about it, as you can
Oh,
tell.
right. I think that was MacArthur Means and Wells that designed that. And I was concerned about that too. Um, yeah, I didn't like that design either. And I mentioned it to them and I asked them to work with facilities and maintenance on the design. And then I was no longer on that committee. So,
More of the council, Janet, that really makes those decisions, and that's what we said to them. And it still ended up that way, but, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to kind of go along with Carol's comment and frustration, I think, in this process, Janet and Belda and Michael, we definitely want to make sure, however you've designed this, that the contractor and construction is doing it the way we want, the way you all have wanted, and then I think, Janet and I, sorry, I laughed when you got taken off of that commission or whatever it was, but I think you had a good point, and I think it should have been built differently. But I think that's just kind of a learning process to say, hey, when we get onto this project, we want to make sure it's built the way you all have described it and want it to be. So anyway, thank you.
sure. And Mike, maybe you could show the top page so they could get a feel for what it's going to look like, kind of the architectural drawing on the front page of the plan set. Yeah. So the Friesla units, we couldn't change the design of the Friesla units. They are, slightly curved on the roof. So those 5 units that are white, they're going to be like a tan colored kind of. So if the dust blows, that the dust will be about the same color as the units, so we don't have to worry about them looking dirty. The office trailer is going to be similar in color. The roof is a flat roof on the office trailer. Otherwise, we'd have to pay a lot more money for that. And we have this limited budget, but then we're going to have an attached loading dock, and that roof will slant toward the center of the property where we'll have a sump or some kind of drainage system to move the stormwater runoff away from the buildings. Then you can see to the left of this drawing, that's where the holding pens will be for the livestock. We don't plan on holding livestock there very long, possibly only one night overnight, depending on when the producers bring those livestock in. But we'd prefer that they come in the morning and then process that same day. But, sometimes, you can't help it and you have to keep them overnight one night. So we'd have them covered. And then as we can afford to add solar, we'd have solar on the roof of that south facing roof over the holding pens. And then we'll have covered walkways. We're going to have a dry meat rack and a covered area for picnic tables for cutting meat. We might even use our slicers inside of the meat plant, but you have to be timing everything properly. You can't have wild game processed at the same time you're processing USDA inspected beef or other USDA inspected products. Wild game cannot be inspected by USDA unless we have a vet in the field when the animals are taken, and that's very difficult to coordinate. So we'll be processing the dry meat separately. But you can kind of see the layout. We don't have any roofs draining toward each other to avoid that same issue that happened at the clinic in Ronan. Does that help to see this drawing?
Yeah, that helps. Yep, quite a bit. Yep.
Okay. And then the composting area will be on the north side. and we're going to be having berms. So we're using all of the excess soil on the site to build these berms. We'll have a berm on the north side, on the west side, and then potentially even on the east side. But we're going to be storing compost on the east side, below the that hammerhead turnaround. We'll be storing the finished compost and curing the compost there. And so we're trying to provide like a visual barrier, just seed that in bunch grasses, and if we have enough money, we might put a couple of shrubs in, but mostly it'll be bunch grass seeding, so it's drought resistant, and we won't have to do a lot of work. It's supposed to be a weed-free seed if possible. Um, and I don't know if you have any other questions. We're not going to be excavating in the southeast corner or the very, very southwest corner either, to try to disturb as little of the soil as possible to prevent weeds from coming in, and also just, to try to keep it as natural as we can.
Yeah, James has a question.
Yes.
Jen, I was wondering, we had mentioned having the ability after it's built to put, potentially solar on it. Is it going to be built in such a way that whether we put solar on now or later, that either if it's a ground, whatever I'm trying to say, if it's from the ground or on the roof or on the building or what have you? Thank you.
Yeah, so we're putting the conduit into the electrical box so that we could run solar to that. We could put solar panels on the roof of the cattle holding area or the livestock holding area. And so if we apply for like an energy assistance grant in the future, then we have a place holder for those panels. And then, like I said, we have the conduit in the ground for the solar, to hook up to solar.
The other thing I was going to ask on that issue too is any of your outside lighting, have you considered, if it's standalone poles, is it solar as well? Because I think Lands is putting solar in somewhere up here in some of the new construction. So I was just wondering if you've got that potentially included.
Mike, I believe we're only doing 1 yard light, and then we're putting lights on the front of the office trailer to light the parking lot. So we're trying to minimize light pollution if possible. And so I don't believe that light will be solar, the 1 yard light that we're going to have, but there's going to be electric fencing around the entire plant. So the electric fencing will go around the entire composting area and come through. So that's for security as well as keeping out wildlife. That was required by the wildlife program, but the solar light, the yard light, I don't believe that is solar, is it, Mike? But it could be powered by solar in the future when we add the solar panels, the way we have it laid out.
Yeah, I think one of the main benefits for this site for adding solar is that in the future, Mission Valley Power is going to have the ability to have what's called net metering. So if you have solar panels on site, you can actually put power back on the grid, and then that will make your power meter spin backwards. So it's kind of like you're contributing power to the grid and at the same time reducing the cost of power that is required for the facility. And then I think we do have some options integrated into the design in which some appliances, particularly in this garage and office building right here, would be able to run on solar in the future. So we kind of have it somewhat flexible where we could use what's called either net metering, or if we wanted to put a battery in this garage here, we could also run that purely on solar, but it would be just for specific appliances and some lights and different things within this building itself.
And
We,
question.
excuse me.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We have a heated room in that garage where we could store the batteries for the solar. So we designed that in.
For the city and sewer and water hookup, is there all issues are resolved there?
Yep, we
Yes.
have, oh, sorry.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. So yeah, we've been working with the Montana Department of Environmental Quality and the city of Ronan to get permits for the water main. The water main is owned by the city, so it's a public water main. So we have to meet quite a bit of specific requirements there to maintain safe drinking water. And then the sewer is actually going to be privately owned and maintained, but the sewer will tie into the city sewer main up here to the north on the site. So we've had to do some work with the city in order to make sure that the connection up here meets all of their standards. And then we've also had them review our design to make sure that the sewer strength that's going into their sewer system isn't going to affect the wastewater treatment plant. So yeah, there has been quite a bit of work with both the city and the Montana Department of Environmental Quality to get all of the sewer and water permits in place.
We also will be having blood totes. So we're not going to be putting any blood into the sewer system, which is a big concern. And so those blood totes then will be moved over to the compost area and the blood will be composted.
Any of the unit itself, as far as exceeding anything, is that really the issue, was the blood? When you're washing everything down and cleaning up, is that?
Yeah, it can coagulate and then clog up the sewer system. So we made sure that we're taking care of that separately and composting it, so it's not going into the sewer system. There'd be maybe a few drops that might spill outside. That would be washed into that stormwater pond to the south, but we're not expecting much. And then any manure in the holding pen area, that's going to be scooped out with skid steers and put in the composting area. And then anything that's washed down that will go into, there might be a little bit of residual that might go into the sewer system, but it shouldn't be too much. Like I said, we're gonna try to let it dry and then put all of it into the compost area so that we don't have any of that type of runoff or a minimal amount of runoff from the holding pens.
Is there, for the wild game processing, or big game management for food sovereignty, et cetera, is there a potential to put a cold storage unit to hang carcasses?
So what we were told by Friesla, and they have worked with other companies that are USDA certified, we have 4 rails in our chilling unit, which is, Mike, maybe you can show them that chilling unit is 58 feet long. It's 12 by 58. And so we'll have 4 rails. One rail could be used for wildlife carcasses, and then we put a vinyl sheet in between that rail and the other rails. That would be for the USDA certified meat. As far as carcasses that are waiting for CWD test results,
Yeah.
we don't know how we're going to handle that yet. We want to talk to USDA. We've applied for our inspection permit, and we do have someone assigned to us, but some of the people who have worked there longer have taken the early retirement, given the recent political situation in DC. So we have a veterinarian who's been assigned to us. He works out of Montana. And that'd be a good question for him, if we can hang those carcasses that we don't have test results back from, if we can hang those there. I think, eventually if you could show where that maintenance shed is for the compost area. In the winter time, I don't know if we could hang any there. It's going to be a three-sided shed. And when the weather's cold enough, November, December, depending on the weather, we might be able to hang some there if we can't hang them in our chilling unit. The other thing is there's potential to expand that chilling unit. If you see the orange rectangle with the cross lines on it, the shading pattern on it, we've got a knockout door built into that chilling unit. If we need to purchase another one, we could add on, but they are fairly expensive, those units. I think that chilling unit by itself is probably $800,000. So, but if we build something smaller, I mean, we've got more room on the site. It's just, we really needed to hear back from USDA if we could put CWD or animals that haven't come back yet with their test results. We just don't know. So right for now, we're asking people to provide negative test results for CWD when they bring their carcasses in.
Clearance before you accept them into the building.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you. Velda and Janet, have you talked with folks? I'm assuming you have, so if you have, great. Just folks that, work in this business to say, hey, here's what we're doing. If you were having to work in this, what would be some of the things you would suggest? The other one is I was wanting to ask, this is right behind the Western Building Center, right? It looks like it's, is it right behind Western Building Center, just south of Main Street Southwest, right?
Yeah, so the
Yeah,
substation is north of us, and then Western Building is kind of
yeah, right.
mostly it's the substation, but a
Yeah.
little bit of Western.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Janet, can you tell them about the tours we've taken and also Flower Hill and people we've consulted with, please?
Sure. So we have toured the Columbia Falls plant, the D&J Meats plant in Mission, and the it's not Sentinel High School, it's Missoula County plant in Missoula. And then Velda, did you tour the Livingston plant as well, Velda, when you were on that?
No, but I took the seminars.
So Patrick Mangan that we're working with from MSU Extension or Flathead Extension, he toured the Livingston plant. We also are in contact with the Livingston plant. They use the Friesla units. And then Flower Hill Consulting, Chris Roper, he built the Quapaw meat processing plant. He's our main consultant. He's free. He's provided by USDA. We signed up when we were working with Vern Claremont. We signed up to work with Flower Hill Consulting, oh gosh, 4 years ago. So he's been with us every step of the way. Whenever we have questions, we can't resolve something, we contact him and he meets with us over Zoom. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any
We
more
need action
questions?
to approve the contract with Camas Creek and to give support direction to the legal department to assist in legal review and support. Oh, to do just that. Second by Martin. And I think it's cool. So any other discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor?
Thank you, Velda and Janet. I want to ask at some point to maybe visit with both of you about talking about a development authority or something like that. You all mentioned you all kind of researched that, and it's been kind of an issue I've been thinking about because we keep talking about different opportunities and companies and management companies and such. And I think we need kind of maybe a catch-all kind of a development authority or something in that realm to kind of help us explore some of these economic development opportunities that aren't necessarily council specific, but they're out there, and how do we more proactively search out those things? And anyway, just FYI.
Did the motion pass, Mr. Chairman?
It did unanimously.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, I didn't hear that.
You're golden.
Yes, James, we do need to get together on that. We have one more request. Do you have time? So we've had funding to update our comprehensive resource plan for like the last 5 years, but we really haven't had time. However, we did meet with Jim Durglow, and he's interested in assisting. And to do that, we would like to enter into a 2-year contract with him. We do have the funding already for the IRMP, and we need your approval to enter into a non-compete contract with Jim Durglow to update our comprehensive resource plans. And that would be on a 2-year basis, because everything we're talking about, all the new clean energy, solar energy, there's just been a lot of progress in the tribes. And Janet and her team, I believe you guys wrote that like, what, 20 some years ago?
30 years ago.
30, okay. And we need to update. So if we could get a motion for a non-compete with Jim Durglow, we'll work on pulling that together as well.
Carol? Yep.
Well, I'm just wondering, are there other tribal members? I mean, should we be out there offering to one individual? I mean, because that seems like something there would be other tribal members, but now that she's already stepped out and talked to him, it might be a slap in the face, and then Janet's gonna be done after this project, right, Belda?
In September. Mm-hmm.
All right. I was just wondering where the money would come from. Is that basically where it'll come from? Is Janet, when you exit, then it'll come from there to fund this project?
No, it's a grant that I wrote a while ago. And when I got moved to economic development, that project was a lower priority than everything else that I was working on. So, but we still have the money. It came down through the compact many, many years ago. And so we just keep extending it from year to year. And Jim has been working with the ID team on updating the forest plan, forest management plan, plus the climate change plan. And he just seemed like a good fit. He's familiar with all of the staff. He's familiar with what's already been written, and he had the time to work on it. And we just reached out to him to see if he'd be interested. And so then we thought we'd better ask you to see if you're willing to enter into a non-competitive contract with him due to his qualifications.
Yeah, I understand your reasoning now of why you would select him because of his other projects that he's done. And he did do the forest plan, but I'm still kind of wondering if there's not going to be others to step up. But yeah, I hear you, Janet. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
On that particular request? Advertise it though earlier, I guess would be the question.
No, we haven't advertised it. We were just exploring to see who might be available. I contacted Dave Rockwell, who worked with us before, to see if he'd even be interested, and he said no. So then we thought, okay, Jim has the expertise. We'd see if he'd be available. And then we told him we'd have to talk to council to get approval if we were going to enter into a contract with him. But if you want us to advertise it, we can do that.
Okay, business services could handle.
No, I don't believe so.
It's
I
pretty
mean, just,
scientific, environmentally technical. And Jim Durgle has done a lot of EA. He's helped with that whole NEPA process. He understands the intricacies. And but yeah, we have asked people who were involved with it 30 years ago if they'd like to assist in updating, and they don't have time. Some have retired.
Jen?
Yeah, I didn't get no backup on this, so you guys could see information on it, so I don't know if it should be just rescheduled for another time or not, because
We could back up, put it on a 5-day rule, I guess we could say. Get some more information and see your write up on it, the cost, et cetera. Yeah, it's land use planning, and so it's a little different than business services. Comprehensive resource planning. I worked with Janet on it, decades and decades ago. Yeah, I could think of, maybe someone like Bill Swaney, someone like that, but I don't know if that would be something he would want to remotely work on or not. He could probably pull it off, but I don't know who else would be out there that might be, maybe some retired people like Bill Faust, he was just here. I don't know. I have no idea who's out there.
Okay, my apologies, mea culpa. Yeah, we kind of squeezed it in, Jen, but we'll get you some background, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All righty, thank you. Happy spring, everyone. Have a nice
job.
day. Thanks, Mike and Lisa. Bye now.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll take on our next order of business and we'll go into executive session. Yeah. Own it, Tony. All right, we're in regular session. I would entertain a motion to start, show interest in the former Hughes property.
Second.
Second by James. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? 8-4-1 opposed. Carol? Yep, go ahead, James.
I want to make a motion to get an update on the Polson, what is it, motel, what is that? Yeah, Flathead Lake Inn. I want it on the status of the Polson, what's the name of it? Flathead Lake Inn, former Flathead Lake. Thank you.
For the record, I just want to make sure that I have a chance to look at all the information that's been provided before I vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have a motion for a report for the Flathead Lake Inn. Is there a second? Second by Len. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor? Unanimous? Okay. We will go back into executive.